Thank you. Hold on just a minute, please. Okay. Ready, Mandy? Welcome everyone to the November 15th meeting of the San Luis Coastal Unified School District Board of Trustees. At this time, we'd like to ask those in attendance to please keep your videos off and audio muted unless you're presenting information or speaking in public comment. We're offering translation services for our Spanish-speaking attendees. To access translation, please click on the globe at the bottom of your screen and then language. At this time, we'd like to ask if anyone who might need translation would please click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand.
Buenas noches y bienvenidos a esta junta del Consejo Educativo. Vamos a tener servicios de interpretación al español. Si por favor en este momento pueden en el icono de participantes levantar la mano y dejarnos saber que necesitan los servicios de interpretación. Si hay alguien que los necesite, una vez que yo termine de hablar, va a aparecer un globito terráqueo en la misma línea cerca de participantes. Por favor, hacen clic y seleccionan español. Gracias, bienvenidos.
Okay, thank you. The board did meet in closed session. We had one student personnel item, a stipulated expulsion hearing. We had anticipated litigation, significant exposure to potential litigation, and in fact, I believe it was just one case. And we had real property discussion regarding Avila School Agency Negotiator, Ty Green Esquire, negotiating parties, Lozano Smith under negotiation for representation. Do we have a consensus on the order of business? Okay. We'll go to item number 5.03, which is action on stipulated student discipline agreement. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we accept the stipulated expulsion as presented.
I'll second.
Hold on just a minute. So we have a motion by Mrs. Sheffer and a second by Mrs. Frame. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Dobler-Drew? Mrs. Frame?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer? Mr. Buckman? Mrs. Roger?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries 6-0 with one absence. Moving on to our next item. Sorry, folks, this is making me crazy tonight. There we go. Okay. Right. So let's see. I'm so sorry. Okay, our student representatives to the board, and I see we have Atticus here.
Hello.
Yeah, Atticus.
So I just have a few things to report going on at SLO High, especially in the past week. We don't have much planned for this week because of finals week and, you know, the break coming up. But last week we did our canned food drive. It's always a great time to do the canned food drive right around Thanksgiving. We were able to, you know, donate cans for people that might not be able to afford food for Thanksgiving. So it was really great. Our Commissioner of Community Relations, Taya Kalpakoff, made a really fun Spirit Point incentive-based donation drive. So the class with the most points would gain Spirit Points for their class. And that just made it really fun for everyone to, you know, compete, but for a good cause. And the seniors ended up winning, as always, but in all seriousness, it was a great time to just donate and a great time, especially around the holidays. So glad that we did the canned food drive. We also have a intramural spike ball tournament coming up. I know we did the intramural dodgeball tournament before, but this time it's spike ball. And intramurals are just a great way for us to promote community on campus and have people interact and work on teamwork and just have everyone in one place at one time. So excited to have another intramural tournament on our hands. We also had our open mic last Friday, and the open mic is a great day for everyone on campus. Everyone stays on campus and watches our talented students and even staff members perform. We had Mr. Dickinson go up there with his guitar and play a song, which was really awesome because, you know, everyone on campus loves Mr. Dickinson. To see him go up there and play a song was really cool. And then we also had our very talented student band called Awkward Silence. Awkward Silence performed. And the interesting thing about them is they're all underclassmen. So they haven't been playing together for that long, but they were great. Everyone was super good at their instrument. I was kind of blown away with how good they were. And yeah, it was just really awesome to see what our students are capable of and a really fun time. And then I also have right here our senior t-shirt for the class of 2023. Yeah, so our class officers designed those t-shirts. And usually the senior t-shirts are just kind of like a t-shirt with a printed logo on them. But this year they decided to go outside the box. And I think it's really creative. I think it's casual enough to wear to school and also like sporting events. So I can see the class of 2023 wearing these all year long. So super excited about the senior t-shirts. And then kind of also along the lines with athletics and everything that's been going on campus, we have our winter sports tryouts going on right now for all of our winter athletes. And our girls volleyball team went to state, which is really awesome. And our boys cross country team will also be competing at state. So it's great to see our athletes representing SLO High as always. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for everyone. Thank you and have a good Thanksgiving.
Great. Thanks, Atticus. Alana.
Oh, that's a lot better. Okay. Monday is thankful for the memories we make. Tuesday is thankful for Mother Nature. And Wednesday is thankful for friends. Thursday is thankful for the food on our plates. And Friday is going to be Flannel Friday. And it's thankful for the clothes on our backs. And kind of along with that is our dodgeball tournament. So all of our events kind of collaborate with our dodgeball tournament. So like today we had, you could write what you were thankful for on leaves and put them up on our thankful tree, which was up in the dodgeball gym, which I don't know if the picture shows that, but Mr. Scotty took these. And tomorrow is going to be the championship game. And then we have some upcoming events, and one of them is our play, Arsenic and Old Lace, which is a murderous comedy. And the tagline is really funny. It says, "A murderous comedy that will leave you rolling with laughter. There are little old ladies, a guy that looks like Frankenstein's monster, another guy who thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt, and a dead body in a window seat." So it's kind of crazy and all over the place, but I'm really excited to go. And you can purchase your tickets through the More by High web store. And then also, I think last week or the week before, they announced that our spring musical is going to be Addams Family. So it was between, like in the end, it was between Addams Family, Beauty and the Beast, and Little Shop. But that's what our director, Ms. Kosteka, chose. Our Interact Club is collecting and donating clothes to students in need. So if you know of anyone that has clothes that they're going to donate to Goodwill, our office is open anytime during the week to donate clothes for students in need. Okay, so kind of our long event list of what's going on with sports is girls water polo. We actually played this past Saturday in the Division II CIF championship game. And we played Garces Memorial and sadly lost 14-10. But they're typically a D1 team, and the team that was pulled up was like Tulare Western, and they're typically a D2 team. So Max Preps, in our opinion, kind of messed that up. But it was still a fun game, and we battled it out and got second in D2, which we also got that last year as well. Our football team opened playoffs with a home win against Golden West, but they ended up losing 28-27, so only by 1, which really sucks. Cross country has section finals on Thursday and did great during their league meet last week. And Otis Kelly finished in second. Michael Carbajal finished in 4th. Eli Waldman finished 15th. And for the girls team, Nalina Fahey finished 4th. And the team overall placed 3rd. For girls golf, they had a first round team match in Visalia. Though the girls came up short in moving on, they had a great trip. And our school was also apparently complimented by the tournament director for having such polite and encouraging golfers. Our girls tennis team won the first 2 rounds of CIF before falling to the 2nd seed in their bracket. And then that's kind of the end of our fall sports, but our winter sports are kicking off this week with scrimmages and games and tournaments for soccer, basketball, and wrestling. I believe there's a girls' basketball game tonight in Lompoc, which is why Michaela's not here. And then there's a boys' soccer scrimmage against Atascadero here tonight. We had our student recognition lunch last Thursday where each teacher could invite 2 students for being outstanding students. FFA barbecued and made all the food. And then ASB served everyone and kind of bussed. So it was our own little restaurant. And then a little statistic is that we have an increase in the number of students scheduled to take AP tests this spring. So that's kind of a little exciting, I guess. And then lastly, maybe not as interesting, but it's a little safety piece. Our admin held a winter sports parent meeting last week and are hopeful to spread the message of student safety and was hopeful it was heard loud and clear. And our new safe sports policies and procedures are extremely important and valuable. And along the topic of safety, we're also going to have a lockdown, earthquake, and evacuation drill, I believe, tomorrow. We practice safety regularly with the goal of helping students to understand and accept our procedures and to ensure that they feel safe on our campus. And that's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As always, you're welcome to stay. I think things might be really interesting tonight. And so you might want to consider staying. But of course, we realize that you've got lots of work to do. And so thanks again. Thanks for taking the time to come out. We really appreciate it. So next, we have our CL Smith program highlights. And I believe that's Mr. Mayfield. Mr. Mayfield, do you want to introduce the folks from CL Smith?
There we go. Yeah, we're excited to have Mr. Black and some students from CL Smith Elementary for highlights this evening. Mr. Black.
Hi, good evening. My name is Aaron Black, the principal at CL Smith, and thank you for having us here tonight. It's been a wonderful start of the school year, and it's been great to kind of get back a little bit back to normal with our school in class and in session. And I have 2 representatives from CL Smith, both 5th graders, Siava Hunter and Maddie Brake, and they're going to give you some highlights on our workings at the start of the year. Thank you.
This fall, we were able to bring back our carnival after a few years of not having it. We had our Cal Poly swim team volunteer to run the stations. It was a blast to have families back on campus.
We held our annual Be Unique Week, where we learned about various disabilities that are represented on our campus. This helps us raise awareness and celebrate our differences. We become more supportive of others and learn to be a better person and friend.
We continue our STEAM classes for grades 3rd through 6th. Students get to choose their class and participate every other Friday. Examples of our classes include zine, origami, bike repair, construction, and dance.
Athletics this fall was so much fun. We had multiple girls volleyball teams, 2 flag football teams, and a cross-country team. We got to host 2 cross-country meets at CL Smith, along with football and volleyball games. What made it fun was everyone gets to play, learn new skills, and play at their schools.
This year, CL Smith is a Leader in Me school. We are learning about the 7 habits of a healthy kid. We are learning how to be a better person, leader, and how to work with others. We have weekly lesson, daily leadership quotes, and discuss the habits during our assemblies.
A part of Leader in Me are leadership roles, in which all students in 4th through 6th grade can participate in one of 4 crews. These crews oversee all aspects of campus. For example, having student-led assemblies and morning announcements. athletic directors running our lunchtime sports league quizzes, our family tour guides to showcase our campus to new families and students, our student-led student store every other week, and our green waste leads who help our students understand being a green school. Finally, our Peace Patrol, where upper grade students support our younger students in conflict mediation during lunch.
Those are just some of the highlights that we've been putting in place at the beginning of the year and having a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Hold on. You might have comments or questions from board members. I don't think you need the stool.
I want them to answer.
Okay. Board members, do we have any questions or comments about CL Smith and what the presentation we just saw? How about a CL Smith parent alum?
I just always have to give a shout out to CL Smith because I feel like it was my school as much as the school for my kids. It really got me, and it's where I became involved in school issues, and I just love visiting. It feels like my old stomping grounds, and I'm glad to see everybody there. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Dobler-Drew.
And I think your Leader in Me program is awesome. You girls are active, right? Good. Thank you.
Great. And I just want to tie things up. I don't think there's anybody else. You know, my wife taught there for about 10 years, and we've always felt a real closeness to CL Smith School. It's a wonderful school, and I'm so glad to hear that you guys are doing great things. And thank you both for coming. We really appreciate it. Item number 6.03, Annual Report of the Personnel Commission. Mr. Block and Ms. French, Mrs. French.
Good evening. This is our 21-22 annual report for the Personnel Commission. I just want to acknowledge our commissioners that dedicate a lot of time to our district. We had Julie Jones that was part of last year, and then Irene Iwan took her spot. Jennifer Myers is currently a commissioner, and of course Becky French, and she's going to give some highlights of the 21-22 school year.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Prater, members of the board. It's been a few years since I've been up here, and I think last time was via Zoom, so it's really nice to be in person again. Again, my name is Becky French, and I'm the current chairperson of the Personnel Commission, and I'm here to present the annual report. Before I review a few of the activities that are in that report, and will that get put up or no? I forget if those get, does it get put up? No, it's okay. That's all right. I wasn't sure. I wanted to give a brief overview of the Personnel Commission. I like to do that. The commission's an independent body responsible for overseeing the merit system. The fundamental purpose of the merit system is to ensure the selection, promotion, and retention of classified employees is based upon merit and fitness without favoritism or prejudice. District employees covered under the merit system include almost all classified staff, so members of CSEA, SEIU, and then all of the classified managers, confidential employees, all covered under the merit system. The Personnel Commission is made up of 3 members. So Miss Jennifer Myers, our current vice chairperson, was selected by the classified employees through CSEA. And her tenure as commissioner began in December of 2020. Miss Irene Iwan, our newest commissioner, is in the position selected by the school board and has served as commissioner since December of 2021. So she is our newest member. And then these 2 commissioner positions appoint the 3rd commissioner, which is currently myself. And I was appointed to the commission in 2012. My tenure is about to expire December 1st, but I decided I would like to stay, and the other 2 commissioners are graciously approving that. So I think that goes before our committee tomorrow. And there'll be a public hearing for that. So I did want to also briefly acknowledge Miss Julie Jones. She was a previous commissioner appointed by the board and back in 2015. And so she served as on the commission for 6 years. She began her career in the field of education in 1972 and has been a wonderful addition to our school district, our community. And on behalf of the other commissioners and HR staff, I'd like to thank her for her service, both on the PC, as a school counselor for the district, and then her ongoing continued work in our community. All right. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, so our commission meets monthly. We have a meeting tomorrow, and we work on issues related to job descriptions, classifications, reclassifications of positions, hiring, transfers, promotions, employee appeals, and then revisions to our PC rules, and there's a whole lot more. Under the direction of Mr. Block, the Personnel Commission staff bring relevant items to the commissioners, and it'll be for information, for discussion, and or action items. And together we work to ensure an effective and impartial personnel management system. Our district is fortunate in that we continue to have a positive and productive relationship between the school board, human resources, the Personnel Commission, and our classified staff and our labor representatives. And I attribute much of the success to the hard work of the HR staff. All of our goals are outlined and activities are outlined in the annual report, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. Flipping to section 3, which I believe is on page 4 of the report. Some of our activities include updating the job descriptions, creating new classifications. We also had a reclassification request come to us, and updating language in the PC rules. The item of reviewing and updating the PC rules is super important, so that we minimize any conflicts between, we've got education code, we have the collective bargaining agreements, and then we have state and federal laws. So it's really important that we don't have discrepancies there. And when we minimize that, we minimize any major issues with any of the employees. So that they've done a great job of keeping those up to date. This past year, updates to the language included areas of gender neutral pronouns, sick leave, maternity leave, evaluation, and layoff language. So all those things were updated. The other item in section 3 is the last bullet point. I bring this up, I feel like it's really important. In March of 2022, Ms. Iwan, Mr. Block, and Mrs. Robinson Bang were all able to attend the CSPCA conference, and that's an annual conference. I think it's really important because it gives, it's a great way to network. It's a great, the fact that all 3 of them could attend, one from kind of each area, was great, and you can network. And it also, they provide legal updates. You look at best practices, and we always try to incorporate that into our budget because things are constantly changing, and it's just a really good conference to go to. So hopefully we will be sending, I plan to go next year as well, and hopefully we can send a couple other people, because it's very important. Okay, with regards to section 5 under recruitments, we always need to just give kudos to our HR staff because recruitment just continues to be a challenge. I don't see it letting up anytime soon. So a couple of points I wanted to address were the written. You can kind of see on the graph or the chart that has the past 5 years. Kind of see everything. Most of the areas have been increasing. Written examinations conducted. You can see from 2020. 2021 to the following year, it's increased from 38 to 68, so almost doubled. And the number of oral examinations conducted last year, previous year, 2020, 2021 was 60, and that went up to 106. So a lot of work that requires of the staff. And then the bottom of that chart, the summer school appointments process, that's a new metrics, and that we obviously because of the summer program, the enhanced summer program, so 126 appointments processed. So again, that's just kind of highlighting the the workload on the staff, and then all of those things come to the Personnel Commission for approval. But it's a lot of work. So we, again, really appreciate all the work that they do. Okay. One last thing I want to say, I would like to take the opportunity to recognize Miss Elizabeth Summers, who will be retiring here in a few days. She's been our HR analyst. We appreciate the wealth of knowledge and expertise that she's brought to the commission over the years. I've had the luxury of working with her also in at the county office, and just her, she's quick, she's bright, she keeps us in the right direction. And we want to thank her for her many years of service in both our school district and the education community. We're going to miss her dearly. So I'm sure Mr. Block and the HR department will, but fortunately, we are in great hands with Miss Robinson Vang. We're really excited. We've already begun to work with her. Thankfully, there was some training that overlapped. And so she's hit the ground running. And so we're really happy to have her and had the pleasure of working with her and getting that training from Ms. Summers. All right, finally, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Block and all the other Personnel Commission staff. They make our jobs as commissioners really easy and enjoyable. They're always very prepared. They always, if we've got questions, they come right back with all the information that we need. And they keep us apprised of all the various activities going on in the district. Every month, they give us an update of what's happened at the board meetings or what's going on out there at different school sites. So we've been really fortunate, and we really appreciate all of their work. And in closing, on behalf of myself and my fellow personnel commissioners, I'd like to thank Dr. Prater, the school board members, for their ongoing support. We appreciate all of your efforts, along with all the efforts of the district staff, the employee organizations, the students, the families, and the community. And that concludes my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions or comments for Becky? Well, Becky, I first of all, before you go, I want to acknowledge you. I think you were modest. You have had extensive experience in HR, both at the county office and I know working with the Personnel Commission here. I know that you also work for Grizzly Academy, and I believe you worked for HR before you worked for the County Office of Education. So I really appreciate all the efforts that you've made and all your dedication to human resources, and especially our classified employees here. Beth Summers, I've had the wonderful good fortune of working with Beth for a number of years, both at the county office and here. And I know Rachel will be great, and we're just going to miss the heck out of Beth. Yeah. And I would encourage you all to do as much as you can to go to the conference. As you know, I've been there a few times, and it's a really, I think it's really important and really powerful. And I think it's really important for people to understand what personnel commissions do and what their history is and why they're so important to fairness. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to correspondence. And the board received 3 letters in correspondence, one from ODR Ireal. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, and I apologize, regarding Pacheco, from Jill Banfield saying thank you, and from Jeff Lemcool, San Luis High, gala presentation concern, board members. So those are some things that, those are the 3 that we officially got. So thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment. I'm going to read a statement regarding public comment, and then we'll go ahead and take public comment. So at this point in the agenda, the board will listen but cannot engage in discussion or take action on items not listed on the agenda. Generally, this section of the agenda is for individuals or a representative of a group to address the board on issues not listed on the agenda. Speakers who wish to discuss items on the agenda are requested to wait until that item comes before the board. However, comments may be given on agenda items at this time if it's not possible for a speaker to stay until the agenda items heard by the board. If you submit written comments on a topic, you will not be allowed to also speak on that topic. Comments or correspondence submitted anonymously will not be accepted. If you would like to speak in person, please complete a yellow public comment request form and submit it to Ms. Dawson over there. In-person public comments will be read first. If you wish to speak via Zoom, click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen and select raise your hand. When your name is called, you may restart your video if you wish and unmute your audio. If you need assistance with your video, please let us know and we'll attempt to fix it. If you have a problem with your audio, please click on the thumbs down icon and we'll attempt to assist you. Written public comments submitted prior to the board meeting will be read by Mrs. Sheffer, following the verbal public comment and then the Zoom comments. All public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, a limit of approximately 450 words in written comment. You may not cede any remaining time to another speaker. Any portion of your comment extending past the 450 word limit may not be read aloud due to time restrictions. All written comments that are not read into the record will be made part of the meeting minutes, provided that such comments are received prior to the end of the meeting. Please be aware that written public comments, including your name, may become public information. So what we'll do is we'll go in-person public comments, Zoom, and then written public comments. There is a 3-minute timer that you will see. It will appear up there. It will also appear on the laptop there. At the end of 3 minutes, I will ask you to end your comments. And I would respectfully ask that you do so. Mrs. Sheffer, are we ready?
Yes, because we have a number of these, I'm going to read 3 names at a time so you can be prepared. And we call the names in the order in which they were received. First is Aaron Hoffman, followed by Jay Beck, followed by Douglas Hoyman.
Okay.
So.
And okay, are you ready?
I
Are you ready?
am. Hello.
Okay. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Starting
Thank
to
you.
wonder if I was going to need that stool that the 5th graders had. My name is Aaron Hoffman. I have a son who's in the 8th grade at Laguna Middle. And I'm here just to thank you, the board and the school district, for the recent training that Gayla did for the teachers, I understand, at the high school level. As I mentioned, I'm a parent of an 8th grader. My son, Sam, loves karate and being a teacher's aide. He is intuitively good at math and not so much English, and he's also transgender. And my experience so far with the district has been a very positive one. He's been very accepted by the teachers and the staff and also by the students. And that's why I'm so supportive of this type of training. And I encourage that it continues, and hopefully even at the junior high level for kids like my son, Sam. When I asked him, hey, what would you say if you went to the school board? And he said, you know, I don't want any special treatment. I don't want to be babied. I just want to be accepted. And I think that a training like this really does help give the staff and the teachers the tools to provide that acceptance. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Beck?
Good evening. My name is Jay Beck, and I'm the parent of 2 children in the district, an 8th grader at Laguna Middle School and a junior at SLO High School. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees and district staff for the opportunity to speak here this evening. I recently learned that the San Luis Coastal Unified School District has identified teacher training on working with LGBTQ+ students as a priority need. It is my understanding that the district plans to work with the Gayla Pride and Diversity Center to facilitate this training. I'm here tonight to thank the district for identifying this critically important need and to voice my support of this training. I personally have been involved with the local business community for many years. During that time, I've had the opportunity to observe and work with members of the Gayla team and have been impressed with their commitment to serving all members of our community. I was aware that the Gayla offered training like this to other organizations, so I took the liberty to reach out to better understanding what the curriculum was all about. I was fortunate enough to get 30 minutes with them to discuss and learn about their approach. I found it to be thoughtful and thorough, as well as respectful of both the subject matter and the audience undergoing the training. I'd also like to recognize the positive impact that training like this will have for our teachers who care about their profession and have an earnest desire to connect with and help support their students. This training can help broaden their understanding of what their LGBTQ+ students are going through and help them find new and effective ways to communicate with each other. I also recognize that these improved skills will also help teachers recognize students that are struggling with depression, being bullied, or having suicidal thoughts, and will give them tools for outreach that could literally save lives. I'd like to recognize the school district's recent school improvement measure, Measure C22, which all of you know would invest $349 million in the school's physical infrastructure to promote student safety and success. I'm a strong supporter of this measure, as the safety of our students and teachers is critically important. The training that I am here to speak in favor of this evening would also promote student safety and success from inside our schools, and I argue that in the long term could create stronger bonds within our community. I'd like to end my comments with the observation that many of us view the world through a heterocentric framework. I know that as a heterosexual male, I certainly do. I've learned through conversations with the LGBTQ+ friends, family, and colleagues that this framework is incredibly difficult for those with different sexual orientations, gender identities, and expressions to navigate. It's much harder for our community's teens who are learning to navigate the world where they may feel isolated, bullied, or estranged at home and at school. I feel that we owe it to all of our students and to our community at large to equip our schools with the tools to be better teachers to all of our students and to provide a community with safe and inclusive learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Doug Hoyman, followed by Jeanette Stocking.
Good evening, board members and district staff. Thank you for allowing this public comment. And at first, I'd like to just mention how much I enjoyed having the kids speak at a board meeting, both the high school and the grade school. That's really, really nice. And that's who we're serving, right? So my name is Douglas Hoyman. I'm a longtime LGBTQ advocate, both statewide and locally. And I'm now wearing my hat today is chair of Central Coast Coalition for Inclusive Schools. I want to commend the district for understanding the need and then providing SOGI training. And SOGI stands for sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. And this is for teachers. And what we've learned is the California Healthy Kids Survey, which you're very aware of, those results continue to show the negative experiences that our LGBTQ students who attend SLO Coastal. It's not just up north in Paso Robles and Atascadero where I live, it's right here. And these kids are reporting feelings of suicidality. They're reporting assaults, at least double or triple their cisgender counterparts, and many, many more issues, including not feeling a part of the school or that anybody cares. CCC4IS has a lot of those statistics. I believe you've been handed them before, but I'll make sure you get those. I want to acknowledge that much is expected of teachers nowadays, and any training is likely to be, oh my gosh, another training. And so I want to know that that probably feels like a burden, but shouldn't the burden be put on the adults in our system and not the kids? So it may be a bit of a burden, but I have to say it's important. I believe that teachers learn how to best treat any marginalized student, which includes LGBTQ students, and learn to respect them with what they deserve. They will create a school environment where all students can thrive. And I think that's what SLO Coastal stands for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyman.
Jeanette Stocking, followed by Jay Sargent, and please excuse mispronunciations.
I'm gonna try not to pass out. This letter is from a San Luis Coastal employee who wishes to remain anonymous out of fear of backlash or retaliation against their job. So, quote, I am employed by this district. I went to a district training on gender ideology and pronoun use. I don't understand why we need it. They played off the emotional part first, like suicide statistics, showing sad videos about children who were misgendered and committed suicide. But what if the confusion stems from what the teachers are saying and doing from kindergarten on? No one asks about that. We're not allowed to identify children as boys or girls anymore. It is considered horrible to assume anyone's gender. They start in kinder with colors. We have to tell them pink is not for girls only and blue is not for boys only. It's okay if boys wear dresses. We can't show strong boys or weak, delicate girls. We need to include weak and soft boys. Then we have the lessons on pronoun use, which are also very confusing to young people. The old teachers are being pushed out from what I see, and they are hiring a lot of new teachers who seem to me to be trying to separate the children from their families. We are told it's okay to keep things from parents, especially regarding sexuality and gender, supposedly to keep children safe because their parents may not be accepting. In fact, I hear conversations between staff about this in which they are exultant about pulling the wool over the parents' eyes and keeping secrets from them. There is no discussion about what the parents might think about these materials and concepts. Rather, they are statements like this. Oh, your parents never told you this stuff. We will teach them different from their parents. These are our children. It's so confusing to kids to have their teachers going against their parents' morals. No wonder by the time they get to middle high school, they're upset and confused and even suicidal. These teachers are pushing their own beliefs on children. I don't understand what it has to do with learning how to read and write in school. Also, I suggest parents monitor teacher classroom books because that is not really being done. Many of these teachers have material that is corrupting the students and their parents have no idea what is going on, end quote. Just on a personal note, I saw the materials that Gala had given for the training. And although a lot of the material I thought was very positive, just for everyone being accepted, there were certain things that really hit me personally. Just like teaching the really young children not to call their parents mom and dad, but their parents or guardians. That really hit me hard and bothered me that it would go to such a deep spot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jay Sargent, followed by Quinn Brady.
Hi, thanks for letting me be here. My name is Janae Sargent. I'm an educator, a certified crisis counselor, and I specialize in teaching healthy relationship skills to teens and young adults in San Luis Obispo County. I've had the privilege of working in multiple San Luis Obispo County schools with educators and students. I also work as a co-director of youth services at the Gala Pride and Diversity Center. You all know the data from the California Healthy Kids Survey. I'll just share a couple of points. That 1 in 2 lesbian, gay, or bisexual teens and 3 in 5 transgender teens in SLO County have seriously considered committing suicide, that 3 in 5 had been made fun of, insulted, called names, or physically hurt, and that both of those numbers are steadily getting worse and have been since 2013. I could spend my time here explaining the life-saving impacts of representation and safe environments in schools because it's there. But I think you all know that. We know the power of seeing ourselves in our communities and feeling safe. I don't think anyone here is against supporting the mental health of LGBTQ teens because we care about our kids. Instead, I'd like to speak to you about the positive impacts I've seen LGBTQ inclusive environments have on everyone else, on the straight and cisgender kids who are also deserving of safe and supportive environments. When I've been in the classroom and an LGBTQ issue or a topic comes up, I always say, I'm not here to tell any of you who to be, how to think, or how to live your lives. Your values, beliefs, and morals are up to you, and that's how it should be. I'm here to share unbiased and factual information that can help you understand the world and people around you, because regardless of our personal beliefs, we're all entitled to respect and kindness. Some of the best conversations I've had in my educational career have been with students and with teachers who self-identify as conservative. I've been increasingly impressed by their questions and compassions, and I can tell you from an educator's perspective, the goal has never been to change minds. People walk into class the same way they walk out. The goal is to foster understanding and compassion. I've often seen fear in parents, guardians, and in teachers that if we take steps to include LGBTQ students, we are teaching morals, that we're indoctrinating students, and that we're making the jobs of our educators harder. But in my experience, the educators who have me into their classroom are needing support. They want this, and so do the students. When we include LGBTQ students and make safe environments, we're making it better for everyone, and we're improving the future of our kids.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Quinn Brady, followed by Nicole Dorfman.
Good evening, board members and staff. My name is Quinn Brady. I'm a parent of 3 awesome kiddos at Baywood, and I'm here this evening mostly just to say thank you to the district for taking the initiative and having the responsiveness and thoughtfulness to engage teachers in trainings that are geared at better supporting our LGBTQ+ students. Over the last months, I have had the honor of supporting Measure C, which, as you know, is on track to pass, securing $349 million for capital improvements to ensure modernization and safety for students and staff. I see this passage as a testament to our community's values, prioritizing students' safety and equitable access to supportive learning environments. I personally supported this effort first and foremost because I care deeply about equity and safety for all of our kids, and my kids are just beginning their education journey in our public schools here. As we all know, safety is not just about the built environment. Just as critical is the emotional safety and overall inclusivity and support of the school climate. More than half of our LGBTQ students have reported feeling unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation or gender expression. When students don't feel safe or welcome, they're less likely to learn and far more likely to suffer from anxiety or depression. At a time when these students' gender and sexual identities are being targeted by legislation across our country, supportive environments are needed more than ever. Training on inclusion and specifically on validating and supporting queer identified students' experience is associated with increased knowledge, positive teacher attitudes towards students, and an improved school climate overall. When teachers, administrators, school staff have not only the desire to improve the school climate, but are equipped with the tangible skills and strategies to do so, they are directly able to create inclusive, supportive, equitable environments that benefit and welcome every single student. Inclusivity is not about a single lesson plan. It should be woven into the fabric of our schools and can and should be what makes our schools special. I just want to take a second in closing to acknowledge your impact on students' lives. It's powerful and I'm sure sometimes overwhelming to take stock of how much you really can do as individuals. As responsible, loving role models, teachers and administrators, and you as leaders have a duty to nurture our young minds for who they uniquely are and help them realize their full potential. One of the guiding principles of this school district is all means all. All staff members are focused on all students. And I want to thank you for charting that course and following that guiding principle through providing these trainings and safe spaces for conversations and resources that promote growth and capacity building for teachers and students alike. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Brady.
Nicole Dorfman, followed by Becca Banfield.
Hello there. Thank you for being here to take my comment. This topic on the gala training really hits a personal nerve for me. When I was a young girl, from as young as I could remember, I wanted to be a boy. I only dressed like a boy. I cut my hair short. All my friends were boys. I was into sports. I loved to get dirty. I was a bit hyperactive. The best thing was when I'd go to the store with my mother and I would always touch things and they would say, "Oh, your little boy, he needs to keep his hands to himself." And for me, I was always like, "Oh, that's so wonderful." The other part is I was one of 3 daughters to divorced parents. It was quite acrimonious. And I became the son in my own mind that my father wanted and didn't get. And we had a special bond because of that. But nobody treated me special. I never felt weird or odd. I never felt like anybody was trying to change me from who I was. That's just who I was. And me wanting to be a boy had absolutely nothing to do with my gender identity or my sexuality, but much more of a narrow and immature perception of power and access. My father traveled around the world for his work. He had money. He was fun. He was exciting. That's what I wanted. My mother, on the other hand, single mother raising 3 children, not so glamorous, not what I wanted. When I started to go through puberty and my body was changing, I was horrified, embarrassed, ashamed. I started to wear very large clothing so that people wouldn't notice. And I know that if I was a young person now in school, there's a very good chance I would have fallen victim to the confusion of gender ideology in our schools and would have very much embraced the magical thinking that I really was a boy and that I was just born in the wrong body. And I could have been encouraged and gender affirmed to go down a road that would have been very dark for me in the long run, that I may have very much welcomed. If somebody had said to me, oh, you don't like your developing body, guess what? We can stop that. We can make you a boy. I would have said, sign me up. And it would have been disastrous because I am a woman. I'm grateful. I birthed 2 children. I nourished them from my own body. And I'm so grateful that I was just allowed to be who I was. There was no pressure. It wasn't odd. And whatever I was feeling, the discomfort, it just passed. And I never looked back. So that's a big concern for me, that children will be confused when they don't need to be. So thank you for keeping that in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Dorfman.
And this is just a reminder, if you want to speak, that the sheets are over on the table. It's my understanding we've run out of the ones in English, so they're in Spanish, but the information is pretty clear. So next is Becca Banfield, followed by Sarah Lofrano.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Becca Banfield, mother of 4 children in the district. And upon reading the inclusive and affirming curriculum training created by GLSEN, as well as the pronouns fact sheet by Gala, both of which have been adopted by a high school in our district, I feel to share some thoughts as an SLCUSD parent. GLSEN's approach of teaching affirming gender ideology in schools seems to me a very well-intentioned effort to promote diversity and inclusiveness in our schools. It is a response to the pain and suffering many LGBTQ+ members have experienced, alarming suicide rates and unkind voices directed at this community. These issues are important and need to be taken seriously and with great compassion and an effort to understand. However, teaching gender ideology theories and accompanying pronoun trainings in schools as truths is not the most thoughtful or helpful response to these issues, but rather an unintended overstep. First, it is not the place of a school to instruct minors regarding gender identity. Public school educators are simply not qualified to instruct in this area. I certainly do not feel comfortable with a public school educator guiding my children to, quote, explore their own gender identity and expression, unquote, as suggested in GLSEN's training. Second, I don't think that the goal to remove binary language from society and from science instruction, as outlined in the training, is the most effective and reasonable way to encourage diversity. Teaching children that we are no longer to acknowledge binary biology in science class, as well as in conversation, and even that we are unkind to do so, as suggested by the training, doesn't feel helpful to me. Teaching kindness and compassion for all is a wonderful and effective thing to be taught in schools. Bullying and name calling should always be addressed at a school level, but we can teach kindness and acceptance of all people without teaching the adoption of specific ideologies, especially ideologies that are not evidence-based and that are not accepted as truth by all or even most SLCUSD families. The worth and voice of all our community members should always be affirmed. But in an effort to affirm the worth of marginalized community members, the district's adoption of Gala's pronouns fact sheet principles also affirms a highly controversial ideology. The pronouns fact sheet says it is, quote, wrong, unquote, to use the words him and her when you don't already know the gender identity someone has selected. It refers to that language in the context of, quote, making a mistake, unquote. I believe that teaching children that it is appropriate or unkind to address people based on biological gender is misguided. It assumes one group's particular truth at the expense of so many others. Until there is more scientific evidence and alignment on gender ideology itself, schools should forego trainings and instruction on such topics.
Thank you, Ms. Banfield.
Next, Sarah Lafrano, followed by Michael Berger.
Hello, my name is Sarah Lafrano. I have two sons that are in the school district. I recently read a comment on Parent Square by the superintendent about how he felt fortunate to live in such a vibrant, thriving community with a school district that finds meaningful ways to embrace differences in cultures, religions, languages, and various other ways that we live in this world. I very much appreciate efforts from educators to show loving kindness to a multitude of students from different backgrounds. What I want to share tonight is how part of the Jelson teacher training is in opposition of my family's cultural background, values, and religious beliefs. I do not wish for these trainings to be used in our school district, but especially not in our elementary schools for these three reasons. First, in these teacher trainings, it wants teachers to encourage students to explore their own identities and personal experiences with gender identity and expression in elementary school. While I understand Jelson's stated reasons for why they want to have this taught at school, it is still an overreach into my rights as a parent to provide, care for, and manage and raise my own children. Our family's beliefs are very traditional and include the belief that the ideal family structure for children is a family with a mother and father. We also believe that gender is an eternal part of who we are. A school's responsibility is to provide a safe and supportive learning environment for all students, along with a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that includes me and my family. Secondly, making it a requirement for elementary school teachers to be willing to encourage students to question their individual gender identity could also be against some teachers' own beliefs and values. Adopting these Jelson trainings for our school district might deter some excellent teachers from wanting to be hired here. Shouldn't teachers be hired for their proficiency in teaching the important subjects, math, reading, science, and their classroom management skills? Let's keep our great teachers and let them teach the subjects they were hired to teach and leave these other controversial subjects to parents to be taught at home while still teaching respect for all in the classroom. Lastly, and aside from my religious views, I believe that gratitude is a foundation for happiness, and I would not want to encourage a child to explore their feelings about whether they should or should not be a girl or boy simply because it could steal away their sense of peace with who they are. Confusion, question, stress, ingratitude is for their body is not a theme I want.
Thank you very much. Your time is up.
Okay.
If you have written comments, you can give those to Mrs. Dawson. She'll be happy to make sure that the board gets those.
Thank you.
Michael Berger, followed by Ella Moncrief.
Hello, thank you for the chance to speak to you tonight. I am a parent of a former San Luis Coastal student. I've been involved in the PTA at Sinsheimer, then teach, was PTA president at Laguna Middle School for a couple of years, and then was involved in Black and Gold up at the school. So I've been involved in the schools over the years. My student graduated 2021. My kid is non-binary, and they greatly benefited by having the experiences of some of the teachers at SLO High, who when they decided to come out as non-binary, the teachers were there and supported them, and were just able to help them figure out how they wanted to express themselves and what they felt was important for their gender identity. I feel it's really important that all teachers are taught how to handle this stuff and how to work with it. I know when my kid came to me, it took me and my wife. What do we call you? What is they? They is plural. It's supposed to be singular and stuff. And a lot of that stuff is not easy to learn. And it is just part of our culture now where we're not going to force everybody to fit into the norm of you are a guy or a girl and you can't be anything else, because all of us are on a continuum, just like a lot of things in life. There's continuums. Nobody is black or white. Everything is just somewhere in between, and it's important to have that knowledge available to the kids and through the teachers of our district. It's I appreciate the fact that we're doing the gala training, and I would like to thank you guys for supporting it.
Thank you, Mr. Berger.
Isla Moncrief, followed by Jill Banfield, and then that's the final sheet I have.
All right. Hi, my name is Isla. I'm the chair for Trans Central Coast Committee of the Gala Pride and Diversity Center. And I just want to kind of start out with the SOGI training, saying I know that we probably all know these are directed at fostering an inclusive environment for LGBTQ students and staff, communicating care and belonging at a critical time. And these trainings are the start of a lifelong learning process for all students and staffs, frankly, the district community. I think a lot of educators can agree that learning does not stop at a grade or an age. Education is lifelong, and these trainings are meant as a jumping off point, the start of understanding the complex interweaving of social, cultural, historical, and political conditions that set the context for an ever-changing and growing culture. That is to say, it takes time and it takes energy and investment, especially to understand something as personal and complex as gender and identity and our SOGI communities. But these trainings are an opportunity to learn more, to grow more, to understand. It is the start to putting district values into action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moncrief.
Jill Banfield, please.
Good evening. My name is Jill Banfield. I'm a grandparent of children in this district. I would like to speak against teaching LGBTQ curriculum or any specialized curriculum in the classroom. I would like to suggest a better solution for adapting to these needs. As I was preparing my thoughts for this evening, I read over the GLSEN LGBTQ resources. I totally agree with their non-bullying and harassment policies. These policies are general in nature and apply to all people. I believe all students would benefit from being taught and having these policies enforced in the classroom and at school. I also believe that it is wrong to discriminate against any group of people because of race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. We should show respect to all people because everyone is different in some way or another. But I do not believe that we need to teach specialized curriculum to respectfully adapt to the needs of individual students. I propose that the idea that the desired results of showing respect to all students can be achieved in a better way. When teachers are sensitive to the needs and differences of their students, they can communicate directly with the students and parents to learn individual ways to adapt their teaching. Here's an example from my experience. I taught kinder, second, and third in this district for 18 years. Each year, my students would make Mother's Day and Father's Day cards for their parents. During my career, I taught children of lesbian, divorced, remarried, and single parents because I was aware of my students' situations at home. When those projects were coming up, I would reach out to the parents before the activity to ask them how we could best adapt for the benefit of their children. Parents would appreciate my efforts to communicate and ask for their input. They would offer a solution and I would adapt accordingly. My point is that I did not have to teach a full curriculum about lesbian or gay parents, divorced parents, or single parents to adapt the activity. In fact, I believe the students appreciated that I did not make a big deal about how their home life was different than the others in class. Similarly, my husband once had a transgender child in his class. The parents and the child approached my husband about their need and adaptations were made. My husband did not feel like he needed to teach a full curriculum to his class to adapt to the specific needs of his parent, of the student. Let me emphasize that teaching minutes in a classroom are precious. There is a limited time to teach the core curriculum of reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. Please let these subjects receive the full focus of those precious minutes and encourage teachers to work with students and parents one-on-one to find respectful ways to accommodate their differences. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Banfield. Mrs. Sheffer.
Those are all the yellow sheets I have. We do have some people who would like to make comments via Zoom. And the first is Karen Aguilar, and you will need to unmute yourself and we'll start the timer.
Yes, hi, thank you very much. I was asked to read a letter from a staff member in your district who wishes to remain anonymous. To the SLCUSD board, thank you for listening to us parents, for we are the primary guardians and authority and responsibility to make sure that our children are in a good and safe environment at school. Parents used to entrust their children to teachers knowing that they were in good hands. One reason I admired this district was its hard work to try to offer a successful dual immersion program. If you are a native Spanish speaker like I am, you know our language is already an all-inclusive language. For example, the word padres means parents, all parents, both parents. It's inclusive. But some teachers say don't use that word because it sounds too male. That's because they don't understand. Now I feel my language, my culture, and my roots are under attack by the changes to nouns and pronouns that are being imposed, now in English, but I'm afraid for the Spanish too. I know that parents who choose to sign their children into immersion programs want them to learn our beautiful Spanish that has been spoken since the origins in Latin. They don't want them to learn nonsensical manglings of consonants, which I saw on school posters. Todas las niñas, where X replaces the A's. With those changes, they are destroying the language. There is no context. It's meaningless and phonetically not possible to sound out. It certainly isn't Spanish. It is completely alien to me or any Hispanic person. It is sad when you try to do the English language, but don't come to destroy our Spanish as well. If you are trying to create division in this community and exclude other cultures in states or countries, it's exactly what you're doing. Now, instead of feeling supported and excited about my great future for my children, I feel the need to protect them from predators dressed up as teachers, and I will stand and fight for the rights of my children as well as my own as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar.
Next is, Next is Sarah and Ruggles.
Hello, thank you for having me speak. My name is Sarah Ruggles. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the director for the Gala Pride and Diversity Center and the lead trainer for the series that we're talking about today. I really appreciate everyone who's come out to share their own stories of how they benefited from this training. It is really inspiring to see how our community can come together. So I've heard a lot today, and I just wanted to share a little bit about what is actually being covered in this training series. So we've agreed to a 4-part series. In the first session, we talk about definitions and experiences around sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, so that teachers can better understand the experiences of their students and engage in conversations that our youth are already having. The most common feedback that I get from teachers who call into our center is that they want to show the students that they're a safe person to talk to, but they don't know how to go about it. So we use the second session to build off of that knowledge to help teachers build safe spaces, combat biases, and respond to instances of bullying and harassment in a way that builds community rather than enforcing shame. We discuss how to identify and respond to our own biases, knowing that all humans carry some kind of bias, and working through that is a normal part of the human condition. Our third session covers local statistics and relevant federal and California laws around inclusive education and protected classes, and walks teachers through realistic scenarios based on what is actually happening in our schools. Our fourth and final session is a panel discussion of parents, therapists, and former students who can speak to their own lived experiences in our classrooms. So this training is designed to give teachers the tools that they are asking for to better understand and support their students as conversations and understandings around this topic continue to evolve. We understand that learning new things can be challenging, and not everyone shares the same understandings on these topics. We work to acknowledge this in our training and hold space for those challenging conversations. I can say from my own experience that the learning curve can feel steep, but learning is possible. And by and large, the relief that I have seen on the faces of so many teachers and administrators who have come to speak with me after this class is apparent. This training is needed and seems to be welcomed by the vast majority of teachers that I interact with. This training also helps the district come into compliance with California Education Code. The state law is really clear that students have the right to have their chosen names and pronouns used, and that LGBTQ+ stories and considerations must be incorporated into social studies, history, and sex education in all public K-12 schools in California. This is not something we made up. This was a law that was passed in California. It's the FAIR Act. And I am so grateful for the SLCUSD administration and school board for bringing us in to give this training series. As a graduate of this district myself, I know how much of an impact having even just one teacher make the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Next is Katie Granger.
Hello, thank you for taking the time and listening to all of our public comments. I wanted to express my sincere gratitude to San Luis Coastal for having this training and making it available. I am a parent of a son who is a student at San Luis Coastal Unified School District. I'm also a representative at Sinsheimer School Site Council. And I'm also a proud aunt of a beautiful and talented and incredible niece who is also a lesbian. And I want to speak a little bit from the heart here because I think this training is incredibly needed. It's needed for student safety. It's needed for student success to thrive. And I have seen firsthand from my niece how family has unintentionally caused harm in her life with comments based on religious or political concerns. I have held her as she's cried at my kitchen table. She has lived with me and her girlfriend for a year. And I've taken a training actually with Gala for family members of people that are LGBTQ, and I learned a lot. So I know firsthand how wonderful the trainings are that they provide. And I offered this training as well to my extended family members, but they declined. Similarly to a lot of the anonymous teacher letters, my family members said that they didn't see why that training was necessary. What they also didn't see were the tears at the kitchen table. And so obviously this training is necessary, and I appreciate your guys' courage and your leadership and your compassion to do this and to continue it. And that's all that I wanted to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was all we have from Zoom. Ms. Sheffer, we have several written comments. So Mrs. Sheffer will read those.
Thank you. First is from Emily Dunn. Dear SLCUSD Board of Trustees, I have 3 elementary age children in the SLCUSD district, but I will not send them to an SLCUSD school at this time. I believe local high school staff training by Gala will slowly undermine the very foundations of family and community. And without a sense of true belonging to what you know is good, true, and beautiful, I fear the worst. So I speak out on behalf of all the other mothers that may not know what is trickling down from people that have never met my kids or your kids. Maybe they're too busy, too tired, too trusting. For me and my family, I will ensure that my children have a sense of belonging, identity, self-worth that goes way beyond a pronoun. There are so many beautiful adjectives that begin to describe my children, your children. Perhaps we should start with character and virtue training. Ask what virtue I identify with. Please don't reduce our children's identity to a pronoun, and please allow me to identify as a mother, my son as a brother. How reductive and demoralizing. I am a mother and I will fight for the innocence and beauty they deserve, whether they are mine or not. Next is from Dr. Keith Humphrey. Thank you for the opportunity to write to the San Luis Coastal Unified School Board. My comments stem from my 3 decades of experience in higher education, including teaching roles, but most importantly, from the perspective of a parent of several of your students and a human being who believes every person matters. Volumes of empirical research demonstrate that when people are invested in based on who they are, they have a greater sense of belonging and they thrive academically and socially as a result. This is vibrantly expressed in the mission of the San Luis Coastal Unified School District. It is wonderful to see the mission of our school district align with research. The mission can only come to life if you start by investing in your staff. I felt great pride and an even greater sense of relief for students when I learned about the LGBTQ student professional development being provided to teachers. This directly aligns with the caring and connected staff portion of your mission. Having educators that are ready to support students in this critical stage of their identity development will not only improve academic focus and performance, but will reduce high-risk behavior like binge drinking and drug use, mental health concerns, and instances of suicidality. I hope every person in our district stands for each of those outcomes. Sadly, I know that there are many who exhibit uninformed and self-centered perspectives around issues of diversity and inclusion, especially around LGBTQ identity development, and am certain that these perspectives exist within our community of educators and parents. While I respect those individuals' rights to personally have views that are not grounded in decades of educational research, professionally they have chosen to fulfill an obligation to every student, or all means all, as this board has stated. Being a professional educator means exposing your students to all the information, not a curated selection, and opening their minds and hearts so that they can choose the best path for themselves. It means setting aside your personal beliefs and feelings and focusing on meeting the student where they are at, because this work is about them, not you. Personally, I experience these issues every day as I am witnessing the identity development of one of your students who identifies in a non-traditional way. The validation that they have received from all our schools, but particularly from the special educators and administrators at San Luis Obispo High School, have caused my child to flourish. Personal challenges they used to face have melted away when they could be their full self. Academics have improved and my child is now future-oriented. Again, thank you for fulfilling your educational mission. Next is from Elizabeth Silva. The material from Jill and the pronoun fact sheet make me wonder about the future of district bilingual education and foreign language programs which offer instruction in Spanish, Latin, and French to hundreds of elementary through high school students. These languages, also spoken by nearly 1 billion people on the planet, are gendered, meaning even inanimate objects are given gendered OS and AS endings. Critically and historically, it is inherently understood that these objects are not tied to the genders assigned to them, unlike English. Can we draw a line to protect language education, or are these curricula also in danger of being modified as well, in keeping with the progressive overarching need to be inclusive? Such so-called inclusivity would be at the expense of destroying languages carefully cultivated from their old Latin origins more than 2,500 years ago. It would also result in our students being unable to communicate with other Spanish and French speakers properly and correctly when they matriculate. Bilingual teachers in the district have already inserted the American invented term Latinx to describe people of Hispanic background and posted classroom signage announcing todos son bienvenidos, using X in place of the O's. Following complaints, they were allowed to post the signs behind their desks, but no doubt students can still see them. In a clear case of ignorance and binary phobia, the implication follows that any Spanish word that ends with an O or an A is fair game to be modified with an X or other symbol of neutrality. Furthermore, the use of Latinx is nearly universally seen by native speakers as an unwanted intrusion by a foreign influence, namely American imperialism. In 2015, Swarthmore scholars Gilbert Guerra and Gilbert Orbea wrote in The Argument Against the Use of the Term Latinx. Perhaps the most ironic failure of the term is that it actually excludes more groups than it includes. By replacing O's and A's with X's, the word Latinx is rendered laughably incomprehensible to any Spanish speaker without some fluency in English. Try reading this gender-neutral sentence in Spanish. Los niños fueron a la escuela a ver sus amigos. You literally cannot, and it seems harmless and absurd until you realize the broader implication of using X as a gender-neutral alternative. It excludes every Latin American who simply cannot pronounce it in the US way. What then is the solution if not Latinx? It may surprise you to learn that a gender-neutral term to describe the Latin American community already exists in Spanish. Here it is, Latino, a grammatically correct and all-inclusive word in terms of gender. I urge the board to prohibit any movement towards so-called gender-inclusive language in district language acquisition programs. Next is Nancy Bast. I applaud your desires to create understanding and eliminate the stigma LGBTQ students encounter in school. However, I feel your proposed use of non-binary pronouns will have the opposite effect you hope for. For example, the use of singular they is confusing and cumbersome. Requiring all students to use these pronouns will likely be met with resistance, animosity, and sarcasm. In discussing this proposal with adult friends, the reaction was disbelief that your rules would propose such inanity laughable if it did not have serious effects. This unnatural way of communicating can be added to the trauma students have endured for the last 2.5 years. Implementation of this rule puts the spotlight heavily on LGBTQ students and makes them vulnerable. Please reconsider the use of non-binary pronouns. Next is from Adrian Harris. Dear Dr. Prater and School Board, thank you for providing LGBTQIA+ affirming training to your secondary teachers this school year. As the district showed in its Youth Truth Survey data last year, LGBTQIA+ students do not feel as safe in their schools as their cisgender and heterosexual peers. Thank you for listening to these students and working towards creating safe, inclusive school communities by providing training to staff. Building staff knowledge so staff begin to understand how to create nurturing and inclusive school communities is an important first step. I hope the district will continue to train staff at the elementary and secondary levels about how to create inclusive schools. Recently, I reviewed the SLCUSD's guiding principles of all means all, culture of care and safety, and respect and integrity. I suspect that the board receives all types of public comment on the topic of supporting LGBTQIA+ students. I hope that SLCUSD administrators and staff truly do work towards creating safe spaces for students to learn about themselves, other people, and the world around them. I look forward to the day when students, staff, and families are compassionate school community members. Thank you. Next is Brian Dorfman. My children are interested in health science. Biology is an important topic for young children and has been part of public education for as long as I can remember. Psychology is more subjective and is offered as a college course for young adults. In biology, we understand that someone provides the eggs and someone else provides the sperm. Procreation is not a myth. Psychology is more subjective and complex. I am completely uncomfortable with teachers talking to my child about gender confusion. Science for a young child should be easy to access, something we can all agree on. Next, from Teresa McNeil. Dear Dr. Prater and the SLCUSD Board of Trustees. Hello, my name is Teresa McNeil and I have a grandson who attends Loams. Since the beginning of this school year, my grandson has been given a questionnaire twice from 2 different classes asking what his pronouns are. He's 11. I've recently learned that SLCUSD is funding gala training for high school faculty. I have reviewed the pronoun fact sheet and the Developing LGBTQ Inclusive Classroom Resources handouts that were used for staff training at a local high school, and I strongly oppose this ideology in our public schools. It appears that this training is to educate faculty to be able to help students who identify as LGBTQ feel comfortable, safe, and accepted in their school community. Although I do appreciate and respect the rights of others, the language written in the above-mentioned training handouts does not align with our faith and family values. I want to know what else SLCUSD is doing to protect the rights of students of faith and all other students who don't want to see this teaching in their school. What happens to those who don't agree with the propaganda that will be forced on them? And will parents be given the opportunity to opt their kids out of this teaching? Bottom line, none of this should be taught in our public schools. Next is Kim Phillips. Dear SLO school board members, I am a parent of a Morro Bay High School student with another child who will be there next year. I am writing this because I am concerned with the proposed gala training for high school teachers. There is no reason why we should force teachers and students to follow this propaganda. This has nothing to do with education, and as a taxpayer, I am disgusted by the district's waste of dollars on this topic. You need to focus on education. Next is Natasha Weldon. Dear board members, my name is Natasha Malia, and I have a child, Monarch Grove Elementary, who is in kindergarten. I recently started volunteering during lunchtime as a yard duty supervisor for the TK and K students. I wanted to let you all know that the children are not separating their trash, compost, and recycling like the older students are. They also throw away a lot of food from their school meals. I am more than happy to teach the children about how to separate their waste. I hope that you will all keep these issues in mind. Thank you for your time. And that is the last written comment. Mrs. Dawson, anything else?
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Prater, is there anything that you want to add?
Not at this time. Thank you, though.
Okay, great. Let's move. Thank you all for coming, by the way. We're going to move on to item 8.01, business and budget update. Mr. Pinkerton.
Normally when I talk, everyone leaves, so this will work out well for me. It's fine, it's fine. Just a couple of things for the board. Let me get to my notes. I was jotting down all kinds of information. Just a quick couple of things. We have received our preliminary property tax estimate. See, everyone's leaving. See, it's good. Which actually was positive in terms of higher than our 10-year projection. So I'll be sharing that at first interim next month with the board, kind of our updated budget, but good news. So it looks like the county's caught up with some of their assessments, new homes, new properties. So that's of course very helpful as we kind of come off of all of our one-time funds and get back to a kind of a normal standing and looking at our budget. Of course, we've added a lot of personnel over the past few years to assist with COVID, learning loss, those types of things to assist. And so we'll be working as a team to kind of look at how we're going to progress in the future, really continue to support our kids as best we can with that. And then lastly, just a quick, again, it seems like every week I give Erin Primer and her team kudos, but the school gardens program, as the board knows, has been growing throughout our schools, progressing. And she just found out this week that she received a $150,000 grant to help us implement school gardens around. And so it's nice because these types of funds take it off of Erin's plate and off of Ann's plate and her staff, right? That now they can hire somebody, have them help the schools, get the gardens going and continue that really positive program, I think, for our kids and for our food service department. Thank you.
Mr. Pinkerton, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be good news on the property taxes. We sort of thought that last year, and then there was the whole hit from depreciation from Diablo. How's that looking?
So this is on top of the Diablo depreciation. So Diablo did depreciate, and they are continuing to depreciate the plant. Now, again, will they stop at some point with that depreciation? If it continues to run, it's really unknown. we don't really find out, about that. I don't even think PG&E has an answer at this point to what's going to happen. But we are getting to the point now where, we have a couple of years left of SB 1090 funds, and that depreciation should level off at some point. There will always receive some unitary tax, and it's been substantial, $1 million a year, right, in terms of cuts. So again, I'll hold it out there a little bit for the board, share that information with you. Again, we're talking, 5% increases instead of 3.5. So very positive, right, in terms of it. I will tell you that the state funded districts around us are receiving 13%. So, I mean, a huge amount of funds. And so you're seeing, for our staff to look at that and say, man, why are all these other districts getting, double, 10% increases, those types of things? Well, because they receive, a huge influx of money, and kudos to them. Good for those districts, right? That they receive more funds, and good for their educational programs and for their staff and salaries and those types of things. But we have to live within our budget in San Luis Coastal, right? Which is better than those other state funded districts. And I think, we're just proactive in that way, and we'll continue to be in terms of, making sure that at the end of the day, we have a balanced budget, right, as we move forward.
Right. I think though we should add that that California sees a boom and bust cycle in terms of tax revenues.
Yes.
And it's riding high in April, shot down in May a lot of times. And I'm concerned for our local districts that have seen those large increases in state revenues, because the state revenue projections are coming in, I believe, much lower than they were expected, than they were last year's time. And so I think the amount of money that flow, unfortunately, because I still would argue that our schools are underfunded, that unfortunately, I think there may be some pain next year for those school districts.
Yeah.
And I certainly hope not for them.
It's going to be interesting as it unfolds, right? So they're projecting 7% COLA next year in terms, because of costs and inflation and those types of things. But I'm not positive where the state's going to find the money to fund that COLA. So that's going to be where kind of the rubber meets the road for those state funded districts, right? And so yeah, it's giving away all of your increase when you're seeing PERS and STIRS increase, right? Retirement costs, health benefit costs, putting that all into salary, which is what employees, again, price of housing here, I get it. Cost of food, gas, all those things employees are asking for it, right? But at some point, how that plays out over the next few years will be really interesting and really dependent on the economy.
Mark?
Yeah, and just to pick up on what you were saying, Chris, and just really quickly, when we look at saying that we're we think some of our districts in our county may be underfunded or we're underfunded, we have to remember that Connecticut, New York, New Jersey all start at $25,000 per child, and we don't even come close to that. So, yeah, we're underfunded.
Okay, let's move on to 8.02. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'd like to get through these first, and then we'll take a break. Okay, Mrs. Frost.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of updates from Educational Services. On Monday, when we return from break, our MTSS and AIT staff members are going to be going through a full day of training. And you might remember that the MTSS and AITs are those staff members who are on the ground floor working with our students who are struggling. We talk about FastBridge. We talk about the data that we're collecting. We use that data to identify who needs the support, and it's the MTSS and the AITs who are providing that support. The training is critical. It gives them the skills they need to really help these kids progress. So we're excited about next Monday when we return from break. And then one other date I want to make you available, or at least informed of, is December 7th. That's a half day professional development day for all of our elementary teachers. They are going to be meeting as a group with Dr. McDowell, and you've heard a lot about Dr. McDowell over the last several months. Clarity. He talks about a full year's growth in a year's time. He is going to be working with our elementary teachers in the afternoon, and in the morning, he's going to go around to our LED I Innovate teachers and look at some lessons going on in the classroom. So we're really excited about December 7th, and I know the board will get invitations to attend.
Thank you. And again, I would just remind everybody that December 7th is also Pearl Harbor Day. And 81 years ago, there was an unprovoked attack on the United States in Hawaii. Measure D update 8.03.
So yeah, we better put Measure C on there now. Measure D and C in the future, hopefully, right? So polling is looking good after our first election night, of course, and then they put out some new results as of Friday night. We actually increased, kind of the support for Measure C. So kudos to two of our committee members here, Jay Beck and Quinn Brady, as well as Gregory Gillette, right? Three parents that really kind of took on this goal of, because we're not able to advertise or try to get people to vote, right? So we rely on a committee, other people to kind of do that work for us. And they did a yeoman's job, I think, over the past 2 months to support it and really, hopefully show the public why it's necessary, right? And so now my job is I have to, working with the board to ensure that our middle schools and high schools and Pacific Beach High School have that same success that we have found at our two comprehensive high schools. And so I have no doubt that our team and that we will do that. But I'm going to work with Dr. Prater on setting up probably a special board meeting and find a time. I don't want to wait until February because there's just some things I think from a board standpoint too. We're going to have a new board member come in. So I think it's good and I think even for this board, 2014, like you forget, what were the steps that we had to do as a school board? Setting up the CBOC, establishing, doing an RFQ for architects, finding out what our delivery methods are going to be. There's all of those things that we need to do. And more importantly, I need to work with the board on prioritizing projects. So there's some things that I'd like to just jump on really quick. Some of those safety things that we discussed with parents and with the public, fencing, those types of things. So I'm gonna need your approval, of course, to move forward with those, as well as kind of what are the first projects that we can maybe really jump on, get going, get established, because I want the public to see some action, as we move forward. That said, this will be we don't receive $350 million this first day, right? The bond measure hasn't even passed yet, right? It's not even certified. So, we're a little bit over our skis in that way. But again, I feel real confident about where we're at with it. Hopefully that continues. But I just think we need to do some nuts and bolts things to really move forward and make sure that the board is educated on what those steps are and what we need to get accomplished.
Mr. Roger.
So, Mr. Pinkerton, I'm wondering, assuming that Measure C does pass, and before we're able to roll out any bond sales, if you want to begin some of the safety work, is what I'm thinking you're referring to. Is that something that could be fronted by the general fund and reimbursed from the first bond sale?
It can.
Thank you.
But really, again, I don't want to get ahead of the board, right, with those things, and make sure that you're fully aware of what we're talking about. Get the community feedback about, all of those types of things as well, right, from staff and parents and community members. I want to make sure that everyone's involved in those conversations as we move forward. But it's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's good work. Seeing the kids up at the high schools, both high schools right now, I just remember when Measure D started going into those restrooms, right? And like, you didn't want to use the restrooms, right? I mean, it was pretty bad at the time. And so now just having nice facilities, whether it's CTE, whether it's the new performing arts spaces, soon to have cafeterias on campus, right? Like all those things that kids are finally benefiting from is really good to see. So it's nice. And I look forward again to having that same thing happen with our other students throughout the district.
Okay, if there's no other questions from the board, we're going to take a break until 7:45. Thank you very much. Come on, folks. We need to get on with this, please.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead. Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Move on to item number, I lost my item numbers here. I believe this is 9.01, resolution number 02223, developer fee report and 5-year developer fee findings. Mr. Pinkerton.
I'm gonna get a complex. As soon as I speak, everyone leaves. You know, this is it's okay. I'm surprised people didn't want to stay for the developer fee report and 5-year study, but of course, annually, I bring an update to the board. This is the annual kind of breakdown of the developer fees we received and how we spent them, as well as a discussion about a 5-year plan, like where do we see us using developer fees in the future? So I'm just going to quickly go through a kind of a few key points, right? So again, developer fees, people have to pay developer fees when they build a home or even when they build commercial properties. So it's much less. So $3.79 per square foot for residential development, 0.61 or 61 cents per square foot for commercial. We've had a lot of growth, a lot of development in particular in the city of San Luis Obispo. And so that has been, I will tell you, very helpful to us, especially when it comes to the growth and more students that we've had at San Luis Obispo High School. So we've been able to use those developer fees to supplement our budgets. And so again, we've taken the $177 million bond measure. We've got state funding, we've used developer fees, and we've maximized that to about 220 million over the life of Measure D, right, to complete all the projects. At the end of the day, we'll probably about 100 million at San Luis Obispo High School, about 80 million at Morro Bay High, double the students at San Luis High School, more classrooms, right? Like that's where the money goes. But you can still see 80 million, 100 million is still a huge investment, right, in both schools, because both schools still have pools and tracks and multi-purpose rooms and kitchens. And so, there are some differences with that, but overall, a lot of the programs, whether it's performing arts centers, those types of things are still the same at both sites. So again, based on that, we had a beginning balance of a little over $2 million. We took in revenues of 3.7 million, close to 3.7 million last year. So pretty substantial for us, again, in terms of moving through. In terms of the projects that we applied those funds to, we put some money towards San Luis Obispo High School because there's student growth there. We're able to use the funds at that site. So some money went to the 300 buildings, as well as the 100 building, the main student support center, cafeteria there. What you'll notice is that developer fees are they're a really small part of the overall cost associated with these projects. So developer fees will be about 11%, a little over 11% of the 100 building, and about 5% overall of the 300 building. So most of the funds came from the bond measure. Again, these developer fees were something that just supplemented that in a small way. It's still a lot of funds. It still helped us get those projects accomplished. But again, just a small piece of the actual costs overall. So there's a breakdown in terms of the overall, again, balance. You can see the revenues, mostly residential, mostly homes, some commercial. That funds do earn interest, right? There's a separate fund for developer fees. They're not commingled into the general fund. There's a separate developer fee fund where we have to chart all revenues, all expenditures out of. There are some direct costs that we're able to take, right? That goes to staff, basically fiscal staffing for those things. But for the most part, most of the dollars go directly into the facilities. We have an ending balance of about $1 million. As the board knows that I've shared it, in former board meetings, right? We look at the remaining projects with Measure D. We look at overall costs, what the needs are. So, I plan on these funds as well as the funds that we received this year will again go to kind of completing these Measure D projects, in particular SLO High, and then really looking at the future, which is the 5-year developer fee funds, and that's kind of this year's. I do see us using some more funds to kind of finish out San Luis Obispo High School. again, supplementing the Measure D funds that we have there, as well as the state funds that we received. And then really looking at in the future use of developer fees over the next 5, 6 years, maybe even 10 years, is utilizing those funds for the increase in students that we plan on seeing with transitional kindergarten. And so those transitional kindergarten classes, they need to be bigger spaces. They need to have restroom facilities. They need to have outdoor areas, right? So there's a lot that goes into transitional kindergarten, and again, we're adding a whole new grade level of students, and we're seeing that growth. We're seeing students coming in. We pretty much maxed out. We have one transitional kindergarten class at all of ours. At a couple schools where we've added over the 24, we've actually added another aide to those, but we anticipate about 5 more TK classes next year. Of course, we'll add more depending on enrollment, but as the grade level expands and we get all 4-year-olds, we're going to need more TK classes, right? And again, this goes directly only to facilities, not staff, not administration. It goes directly to facility projects. So that's where I see kind of the growth going into the future with the 5-year plan. And so tonight, I'm just asking the board to approve this resolution.
Thanks. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board on this item? Any board member questions? Mr. Buckman?
Just real quickly. Thank you, Ryan. This is great news.
Yeah.
One of these is probably just there's a chart. Some of these, I don't think the pages were numbered. Page 7,
Mhm.
there's a chart. It's got line
1 and 2 should have been canceled.
Thank you.
I just noticed it.
Okay, just
They should have been moved up.
thanks. And then there's a line that it refers to a refund of about $34,000. Can you explain what?
So yeah, so if somebody pays their developer fees like they're going to build a home and then they end up not doing it,
Okay.
then we actually refund their fees.
Okay. I just
So yeah, they can receive a refund. So that's what that represents. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I sort of following along with Mark's question, at what point do we receive the developer fees from a project? And then at what point do we actually spend them?
So they will normally pay their developer fees before they get their building permit. It's one of the things they have to have in hand, proof from the district that they paid their fees. So they can't proceed with building until they've paid that. And so they literally pay at the district office here at our fiscal department. They come in, give us a check, money order, whatever they need to in terms of paying. We hold those into the account. We normally have, and again, refunds is probably, again, this 20 to 30,000 a year, I would say. So it's pretty rare that people don't build once they paid fees and got their permit. But it could happen, right? Something could come up. Architect, maybe they go out and bid their project and it's way more than they thought and they decide not to do it. So those would be the people that would come back and ask for a refund. So, but we normally have again, $1 million, kind of balance in that account from an ongoing standpoint. So there's plenty of money there to have refunds if needed.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, would someone like to make a motion on this on 9.01? Okay, we have a motion by Mark. Who would like to second this? Second. And everybody second at once. Any further discussion? Mark? Marilyn? Eve? Evelyn?
Yes.
Ellen? And I'm a yes. Motion carries 6-0 with 1 absence.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. 10.01 Safe Sports Update. Mrs. Thank you.
right, good evening. We're here to talk to you this evening about the safe sports policy. We've talked to you about it a couple of times and are just trying to regularly give you updates on the work that we've done. Tonight, we're going to talk about why a safe sports policy. We're going to review the safe sports policy itself, but in a very, very small fashion. We're not going to go over this entire 65-page document. And then the bulk of our presentation tonight, we want to report on progress, let you know what we've accomplished over the last several months with our coaches, with our families, and with our student athletes. Let's start with why a safe sports policy. I think the bottom line is we just want to provide safety to our student athletes across the district. We always think about high school student athletes, but we also have middle school student athletes. And with Mr. O'Connor's and our elementary principals work, we have elementary student athletes across our district now. So we really want to provide safety for them. And we do that through a number of things that you'll hear about as we go through this presentation. But I do also want to call your attention to the pictures that we have on this slide right here. I think you're all very, very well aware of media and some of the things that have been going on in youth sports across our nation and, outside our country as well. That top left is Canadian hockey, and they've had some issues in their junior leagues with sexual assaults that they've had to deal with. We've got our USA women's soccer, who has also been in the news talking about issues that they've dealt with coming up through the ranks of youth sports. And then you see USA Gymnastics. And USA Gymnastics several years ago was across the papers talking about issues that they had with their youth athletes. And for San Luis Coastal, the gymnastics organization really did a lot of work on their policies and procedures, and we used those as we were building our safe sports policy. Before I go into just a short description of the 65-page document that we've talked about, I do want to tell you a little bit about how we got here. We saw a need for a safe sports policy in San Luis Coastal. In fact, Dr. Prater talked to Mr. O'Connor and myself about that about a year ago. It was December 21, and we partnered with Resolute, and they helped us begin this process. Right? They did the research for us with USA Gymnastics, brought in policies and procedures, and then Mr. O'Connor and I really took that document and made it San Luis Coastal specific. And that process was a long process. We took that document and then we started getting feedback from groups across the district. We talked with our athletic directors and got feedback. We talked with our coaches. We had a combined boosters meeting. We had parents read this document, parents of student athletes, so that they could give us feedback about their experience and what they should see in here. And then Mr. O'Connor, in two amazing meetings, one at Morro Bay High School and one at SLO High, got feedback from the students themselves. Look at the details in the safe sports policy. What do you see? What resonates with you? What is missing from this? So it was really an organic process of putting this together. As you remember, last spring, we discussed it in detail at a board study session, and then in June, it was approved by our Board of Education. So starting this August, Mr. O'Connor and I have been working with our coaches, with our athletic directors, and with our administrators to implement the plan. What you see here on this slide just gives you an idea of some of the things that we concentrated on in the safe sports policy. We talked about safe practices and procedures, so prevention of bullying and hazing, prohibition of one-to-one contact. So we really looked at the contact that our coaches were having with their student athletes and student athletes with their coaches. We talked about in-person one-to-one contact, but we also talked about communication. What should our communication, even texting, emails, that type of thing, what should that look like? And really our bottom line was it's never one-to-one. It's never one-on-one. There's always another coach, there's always another student, or there's always a parent involved. We talked about appropriate use of digital communication. We talked about safe travel procedures, and we talked about training for our student athletes and our parents. So we not only wanted
to train them on the safe sports policy, but we want our students to know about bullying and hazing. We want them not to be a bully, and we don't want them to be bullied. So we put together training for them. The second piece that you see there is training for our coaches. And that Leslie's going to talk a lot about that this evening. We're going to give you some data, the number of coaches that we've trained over the course of this fall. But that is also kind of one of the linchpins of this policy. We pull our coaches together and we review the safe sports policy. And then we've identified critical trainings that we want them to take online that will inform their work, but also make sure our student athletes are safe. And then we go pretty deeply into reporting processes. We do this in the safe sports policy. And what you'll notice is it's in the student athlete section, it's in the parent section, and it's in the coaches section. We want everybody to know how to report a concern. So this is just kind of a detailed list here, how they contact the school site staff, how they use our district website, and who our Title IX coordinator is. We also go over the report a concern button, just again, making sure that our parents, our student athletes, and our coaches know how to report any concern they might see across our sports in San Luis Coastal.
Thank you. And it gives me great pleasure to report out to you guys this evening a visual of what we've done since August 1st. When you factor in, we've had a fall season of sports, and now we're in a winter season of sport. That alignment, that system, that structure, that process that Mrs. Frost talked about, we want to have consistency and continuity throughout our district. We started back on August the 1st, and we actually were in this space with all of our fall coaches. And then we returned to the same space for our winter sports coaches meeting on October the 12th. And then we built that out at the school site level. So at the school site level, site administrators and athletic directors met with all the coaches' staff. So when you see site coaches meeting, again, one for the fall and then one for the winter, and those dates are listed. And then we took it to our parents' meetings, and we had our parent meetings for fall sports, both in Morro Bay and San Luis High. And again, you can see our key dates there in August, and then again in early November. And then when you look across, you see all the way down to our athletes. So we empower our athletic directors, our head coaches, our site administrators, assistant principals and principals to meet with each and every sports team and to review our safe sports policy and to talk specifically with them about expectations, about codes of conduct and bullying and hazing, and making sure that they understand not only the expectations, but the reporting concern. And this is built out through your leadership across the district. When we look at the level of training that goes on, this is just a snapshot. All of our coaches will go through annual trainings. So when we look from left to right, we're looking at our safe sports policy. All of our coaches go through get safety training with regard to mandated reporting, bloodborne pathogen, and sexual harassment. Biannual training with regard to CPR and first aid, heat illness prevention, anti-bullying, concussion, and sudden cardiac arrest. And we utilize the National Federation of State High School Association for their programs, and all of our coaches access those. And then also we look at our one-time only CIF coaching course, which is an extensive coaching certification that all of our coaches must go through, a one-time only. It's at least 10 hours of online training. So you can see the broad spectrum of expectations around all of our coaches in our district. Just a snapshot when we're looking at bullying and hazing. As Mrs. Frost said, we're looking at making sure that our coaches, our head coaches, our assistant coaches, our JV coaches understand exactly what's involved when we talk about bullying and hazing. And they take the online version of the National Federation State High School Associations course in bullying and hazing. We also talk about heat illness prevention. And again, they take that as an online course. Concussion and concussion protocols, again, very, very important with regard to our high school athletes. and then sudden cardiac arrest. Again, National Federation of High School Association. And then we have all of that data where all of our coaches are certified in each of these areas. I'm happy to report out that when we look at all of the coaches who work with our student athletes, when we look at our fall sports at Morro Bay High, we have 28 coaches in the fall across the various sports that were coached, and 41 coaches at San Luis High were all certified in each of these components. So as I shared, safe sports, mandated reporting, sexual harassment, bloodborne pathogen, CPR, first aid, CIF, that whole list of courses, all of our coaches that interacted with our students were certified in this fashion. And now as we enter winter sports, we have 18 coaches at Morro Bay High, and we have 27 coaches at San Luis High. And again, the important piece is any coach that's working with a student athlete, before they interact with a student athlete, they have been certified and cleared through this process. There is no one, let me repeat that, there is no one working with a student athlete that has not been fully cleared through this entire process. When we look at student athlete training, when our coaches, our head coaches, and our athletic directors and our site administrators meet with student athletes, we talk with the student athletes about the onboarding for all student athletes. We actually bring up the hazing and bullying prevention courses that we've talked about with our coaches. And we have a deep dive and an understanding with our student athletes about bullying and hazing. It's so, so important for them to be able to recognize this. And then we also ask our student athletes to sign 2 documents. One is the Code of Ethics that's modeled off CIF, and one is the Student Code of Conduct, again modeled off CIF. And they're very specific. We ask our student athletes, we ask our parents, and our athletic directors to sign off for each one of those student athletes in our online platform called Sportswear, that they must complete those before they're able to participate in student sports.
One of the things that we've been working on as a next step to our safe sports policy is a website that our students and staff actually and parents can access. So this is on our district website. Actually, if you go to the front page across the top, one of your choices is athletics. And athletics takes you to this page. It's athletics and safe sports. And if you go down, you'll see just some beautiful pictures throughout this. And I do have to do a shout out to Jessica Mueller, our one of our assistants up in the superintendent's office, who has just done an amazing job with this. But you can see our student athletes, and then you can see our vision for sports in San Luis Coastal. You can go down and see our safe sports policy with links for both of our comprehensive high schools. So if you come to this district and you're interested in sports, you can go here and link directly into one of our high school athletics pages. You can also go directly to our safe sports policy. And then we also have a page for student athletes and parents. So if we go into the student athletes page, we kind of put ourselves in the position of a student athlete coming to San Luis Coastal. What would you want to see? Combined with the important things we want to share with student athletes from the safe sports policy. So we know they're going to want to know about eligibility requirements, which you can see right there. We want them to know about student athlete training and what their requirements will be. We want them to understand that observable and interruptible contact in San Luis Coastal is critical, and we describe that. We think students should know about social media and what that means as a student athlete in San Luis Coastal, and then how to report a concern. So that's the start of our student athlete page. And then if you can go to the parent information page, again, thinking about a parent coming to San Luis Coastal, what does communication look like in our sports program? Again, observable and interruptible. What can you expect from the coaches in this area with their student athletes? We also think our parents might like to know how our coaches are trained. So that is all listed here on the parent page. We want them to know that we have some expectations of our parents as well. We've got a code of conduct that we ask our parents to sign. And we have some recommended training. We would never require that. But as a parent of a student athlete, you might want to know about sudden cardiac arrest. You might want to know about concussions and health and wellness. And then, of course, how to report a concern. We want our parents to see that. So this is our start of our student athlete and safe sports website. It will evolve to include youth athletics as well. We want our elementary parents to be able to go here also and see what's available and honestly what protections are in place for them as well. Now I'm not sure how to get back. All right, Leslie.
So our next steps, it's our goal, if not this spring, but definitely next year, when we meet with our student athletes, we're going to utilize that the National Federation of High School, the state association that I've talked and referred to, where our student athletes will formally complete that bullying and hazing course. I think it's really, really important. They are student athletes, and it's important for them to be empowered to really understand that. As we build our K-8 athletics program across our district, it's imperative that we start to build that continuum through our middle schools, and as Mrs. Frost said, into our 5th and 6th grade athletics programs. And then as we also refine our webpage and our mode of communication, it's imperative that parents, student athletes, coaches, our community know there's transparency in our district and our expectations are very clear, and they can get a hold of us, they can report concerns, and they can understand what we expect of everyone in the organization. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Sure. First of all, let's see if there's anybody from the public that would like to address us on this. Okay, and I'll bring it back to the board. This is a discussion item. Anybody? Mrs. Frame.
Mr. O'Connor, this is and Mrs. Frost, a really comprehensive document. What I really appreciated about this is that collaboration with our parent community. That was really a deep dive into, taking guidelines from, Resolute and also the USA gymnastics and really, making it our own, but really putting in those guardrails and guidelines. So it's a great, document. Couple of things that I wanted to ask is, do we have, and I apologize for not asking this sooner, but what would you guess would be the % of parents that, are interested and seem to really, would be doing this on an ongoing basis or initially did this? What do you think about that? I apologize for not.
That's okay. I'm not sure I quite understand your question, but I know that we, even after the booster meeting that we have for input here, we continue to get some emails from parents about the document and would you consider, what do you mean by that type of thing? And then I would remind you that in one of Mr. O'Connor's slides, parent education on our safe sports policy is part of our ongoing practice. In fact, I thought it was really interesting that our representative from Morro Bay High School talked about a safe sports meeting this week with parents and student athletes. So parents are a critical piece of this. Not only did they give us feedback, but we consider them critical in our rollout and we consider that continuous. So we're doing it this year, but every year after that, that is going to be part of the parent meeting at the comprehensive high schools.
Perfect. And that's, I think I was asking kind of, what is kind of initial, you think, percentage of parents who participated, but it's, this is, we're just beginning this and it's really that kind of dive. There's the initial parents who are really interested, but it's kind of spreads and filters out to the other thing I was going to ask, and as I looked over that document, and I don't really know if it's pertinent to the safe sports policy, but as I was thinking about this, is there, would there be a place for safe sports and fundraising?
That's a great question. So one of the pieces of the puzzle that we want to build toward would be the fundraising aspect. So boosters specifically. And then when you think about boosters, we're not just talking about athletic boosters, we're talking about ASB. And so that's on our to-do list to make sure that we build that capacity also with our booster organizations, whether that be band and choir, whether that be FFA, Aggie backers, whether that be in sports, and to make sure that we are very clear and transparent also, much like we have on our safe sports policy around that.
Thank you. And last thing is as I was looking at the document and the website, what would be, I'm assuming that we have a number of, by the time they get into high school, most of our students are English speakers, but the parents. So what does the targeted outreach look like? Is this translated? And, some of our parents don't necessarily read. So what would that targeted outreach look like to really explain that to our parents?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when our parents come to our fall parent night, our winter parent night, we provide translation services. Obviously, for our parents, it's available for them there. And then we're obviously going to be working to make sure that all of our documents are translated and available for parents online as well.
Thank you.
Yep. This just gets better and better. It's really cool. I just feel so much better about the kids and the safety and the interaction with adults. Two things. I'm interested in maybe someday, if the board supports me on this, getting a breakdown of the demographics on the teams and maybe the SED, non-SED relationships. And that came to mind as I was thinking about this next. This is more of an observation than a question. The amount of interaction, the amount of attention to the student's safety, the one-on-one, all of that stuff, it's almost like maybe this is a precursor to what we can apply to the entire student body. Like it's not just safe sports, it's like safe attendance at school. Because the groundwork's here, it just would be interesting to see it applied. So I thank you very much. And it's certainly sparking some thoughts for me.
And that, just a quick question. Have we seen an increase in the reports through the report of concern since, because we've really spent a lot of time, I think, highlighting it, trying to get people to use it if they feel that there's a concern. Ryan, I guess it goes straight to you.
They come to me. I forward them.
Do you think you've seen an increase in it?
No, I think it's about the same, honestly. What we have seen is not necessarily coming in as a bully concern button, but definitely like our threat assessments, like the number of threat assessments that we've dealt with, because kids are telling principals at sites or teachers or those things, not necessarily through the district website concern or bully button, but definitely, communicating, I think, with our administrators and with teachers and so on. So that has really increased, I think, because of the work that's being done.
Well, that is really good news. Thank you. Marilyn?
Thank you. Mr. O'Connor, I didn't feel that I completely understood your response about how the Safe Schools, this program that we're doing, could be applied to fundraising. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, when we look at our process and protocols that we're utilizing with our safe sports, much like Mr. Bookman just mentioned, maybe this could be a platform to be built out for school in general. We anticipate the opportunity to be able to put those same guidelines in place and a manual, so to speak, for ASB funds, booster organizations, so that we can work with our booster organizations to build their capacity and knowledge and understanding. So it's pretty clear, and we can help train them to make sure that we are abiding by all FCMAC that we always do, but makes them more aware of the expectations around that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think that was really interesting. How about 10.02 elementary athletics for achievement update? Mr. O'Connor, back to you, and Mr. Black.
Yes, let me see if I can get the share screen option here. Might need some help on this one. So it gives me great privilege and pride to talk this evening for the first time about elementary athletics for achievement. And before I do that, I just want to give a big shout out to Jane Holly. Jane Holly is our secondary TOSA, and Jennifer Pardo is our administrative assistant in our office. They're not here this evening, but the work that both of the Jane and Jennifer do behind the scenes to pull all this together is pretty amazing. I'd also like to recognize my co-presenter, Mr. Black, because Mr. Black has really been one of the inspirational forces behind our push with regard to elementary athletics for achievement. And I sort of kind of pull him in as a call of duty as well, but also recognize the incredible work and the voice that he provides in that cohort. And it obviously has to be said, our elementary principals, this is something that we're building on the fly, and they are so important to that process, and they've got a lot on their plates every single day. And I so appreciate their willingness to kind of build with us for students. And Mr. Buckman, when I get to a slide about data, I think you'll be really, really happy with that particular slide. I want to take us back and just give us a very brief overview. It was only like 11 months ago when we sat and we had this conversation with Dr. Prater, Aaron Black, a visioning committee with regard to elementary athletics. Again, I want to say that it's only 11 months ago. And you fast forward through all of that process through February, March, April, May, and then to pull this together in August and have that opportunity for students who are in 5th and 6th grade to start to experience that literally after Labor Day weekend. It's a remarkable feat, and it requires a lot of people. This is not something a one person can do. It requires a team, and we have to work through all of those people to make sure that we reach students and student athletes in our district. When we talk about why athletics for achievement, I'm going to just give Mr. Black a moment to kind of give you that overview. What does this do for students?
Thank you again. I think I've shared this message multiple times with the school board here. You will not understand the power and the impact of this program for students on our campuses. Being a site principal of one of our Title I schools and seeing 60 students in the fall participate, and now another 60 for the winter first season, sign up and get excited and energized for this. Is just incredible. And students that have never had an opportunity to be a part of something, to be tied in with school, to make new relationships with different teachers on campus that they may not have had, new friendships, has been remarkable. The first season went really well. A lot of work, thanks to Mr. O'Connor and his team. They just were incredible. All principals are highly engaged with the excitement of it, with what the students are taking from it. For my site in particular, having the 2 days of practice working with a teacher coach, working with Cal Poly and Cuesta students who are fellows there as role models and can share what their experiences are at the collegiate level. Additionally, adding in the homework support. I had about 20 students on Tuesdays and Thursdays after practice want to finish their homework and be there a part of it, which is fantastic. And then Wednesdays, and then working in with Jane Holly, kind of leading our fellows to lead our Leader in Me lessons with the sports teams has begun the last few weeks of the fall, and we're looking forward to that coming up for the winter season. But it's changing the students. They're more engaged in school. They are there. They're willing. They're open. They know what a student athlete means now. I keep saying that, but they understand what that means, and they're actually able to perform in the classroom at a higher level because of what they want to be a part of, and just the excitement that they have. So the relationship piece has been amazing, and it's a great program. I only look forward to it to get even better. So thank you.
When we look at the program overview itself, when we start to think about it, we have teams and students participating at all 10 elementary sites, both in the city and on the coast. We're looking at 4 seasons of sport, about 6 to 8 weeks in length. We're talking about all of our 6th and 5th grade students where possible being able to participate. It's so important to give a shout out to the Cal Poly and the Cuesta Fellow programs, the AmeriCorps program. We have 40 AmeriCorps fellows on our campuses. They each are $10,000 invested from the AmeriCorps program. That's $400,000 of free capital investment, labor investment with our students. And not all of our fellows are working primarily in the athletics for achievement. Many of them are actually just working in our classrooms at many of our elementary sites and even in our middle schools, because we've got them in there in math classes and reading classes, first grade, second grade. And it's fantastic for our elementary kids and our junior high kids to see collegiate level fellows working right alongside them. And then, as I said, the leader in me component is so important. That's the critical kind of next step as we build that capacity on our campus. When we talk about what's the structure, we've had the fall, we have winter 1 and 2, and then we have the spring. So when we think about that, yes, Ms. Frame.
A quick question, Mr. O'Connor. You know, as I was thinking about this phenomenal course program with our Cal Poly students, and I was just thinking about it sometimes it's difficult to get our volunteers from Cal Poly out to the coast, you know, gas, time and whatever. Has that been a problem, or are we able to, you know, get that same amount of enthusiasm from those volunteers out to our coastal schools?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's problematic. It's dependent upon their transportation. But the short answer is yes. When we have fellows who are able to have transportation, as many of them do have a car and they're willing to travel, then we utilize them to go to the coast where possible. The vast majority of our fellows are in city schools, but we also try to place fellows based on enrollment and usage in the coast schools as well as in the city schools. So yes, we do have fellows who are willing and do go to the coast to provide support.
Is there a way that if they do have transportation, but there's kind of a gas issue, that we can?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're actually partnering with Cal Poly now. About a month ago, Cal Poly made the decision where students in our fellowship program can actually reserve a zip car on the Cal Poly campus and actually pick up a zip car, and then drive to the events. Who would ever have thought that was possible, right? But working with Cal Poly, that's the kind of organization and conversations we're having where, you know, these are things we do on a daily basis. So when I say we're creating that kind of system, we're building it literally on the fly. So that was like as of a month ago that we're hoping to utilize as we build into winter season 1. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is the set of numbers that jump off the page. Fall season, we had 24 staff members who were involved in coaching, 24 staff members at the elementary sites. That's not our fellows. We have 40 fellows. We had 400 fifth and sixth grade students participate. Think about that. Remember, if you go back and you think about the conversation we started in January 2022, and we built something in about 6 months, and we launched it the Tuesday after Labor Day, and we had 400 students participate. Just the impact of that as they come back to school post-COVID, and the opportunity to participate and be involved and be connected, and all those amazing things that Mr. Black talked to. So something to really highlight. The partnership, as we've talked about, it's very important to give recognition to our education foundation. Our education foundation has been such a supporter of what we've been doing. Our education foundation, you know, if you saw the logo that I had on an earlier slide, the Elevate, we're taking that, and that's on all of our t-shirts that the foundation has helped support. We partner with a local company in town to purchase all of those jerseys. All of that finance comes from our foundation. And so the work of Christine Robertson and the Education Foundation is so important to this, and being such a champion and a supporter of it. And then, as I spoke with regard to Cal Poly and Cuesta, that fellowship program really makes all the difference. Cal Poly, just to give you a frame, they have 167 fellows in the program, 167. We have 40 of them on our sites. We're the only K-12 that they partner with. I just want you to know that. The only K-12 that they partner with. When we looked at the season of sport, just really quickly, this was when we held our last day of competition. We did it at San Luis Obispo High School, the flag football. We have 14 teams, 140 athletes, but we also had competition at CL Smith. We also had it at Sinsheimer. And then we also had it obviously at San Luis Obispo High School in flag football.
Mr.
Yep.
So looking at this competition, what does transportation look like?
Great question. Transportation. I'll tell you what transportation looks like. Transportation looks like anything the following. We open our van rental business out of H4, usually about 7 a.m. on a Friday morning, where a teacher from the coast will meet and pick up a van. I give her a huge kudos, Lindsay Evans. And Lindsay will come and pick up a van. I think she teaches maybe 3rd grade at Baywood Elementary, and she's not involved in coaching. And she takes a van out to Baywood. And then when we have competition, she drives the kids from Baywood back into the city. And then if the kids need a ride back out to Baywood, she drives that same van. It's either a San Luis High van or a Pacific Beach van or a Morro Bay van back out and drops the kids off. And then she brings the keys and the van binder back before the car rental business closes in H4, usually around 7 o'clock in the Friday evening. And she does that. And then you look around this room and you see van drivers, and you have Mrs. Frost, and you have Mr. Block, and you have Mr. Mayfield, and occasionally myself, and you have Miss Holly, and we all pitch in. And then you've got principals like Mr. Black and Mrs. Miller, all of them pitching in. And we wouldn't be able to do it without the vans being available from the 3 comprehensive high schools, San Luis High, Morro Bay High, and Pacific Beach. And transportation is that kind of like, how do we solve that riddle? But we're solving it, and we're being pretty dynamic in doing that. And I just want to say thank you to the comprehensive sites and all the drivers who are volunteering.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks. So, great minds think alike. My question goes to, how late does the program go? Have the regular school buses left, and are we still short bus drivers? So, it's getting more and more complicated.
So I'll let Mr. Pinkerton ask that.
Yeah,
answer that
so
question.
a few things in terms of transportation. We're actually super fortunate, San Luis Coastal, that we actually are able to drive our kids home from school and to school every day. And we do that by all of our mechanics driving daily right now, by our dispatcher driving daily by now, as well as our transportation supervisor driving daily. So everyone is driving.
Yeah.
And just it's good for the board to know perspective, right? So in Lucia Mar, at my daughter's school, literally almost on a daily basis, one of the buses doesn't show up to take kids or pick them up from Oceano Grove Beach to take kids to Judkins Middle School. Like that's what they're dealing with, right? So we are, again, still super fortunate. So to answer your question, Mr. Buckman, we're down probably 6 drivers right now. We could always use even more for programs like this, right? To be able to support that. Lucia Mar has actually hired some of our drivers to help with some of their athletic trips and things like that. So we try to help out when we can. We were able to do it recently because we had a professional development day on Friday, so they needed something. So we try to help when we can. So we're working on it. We believe we have 7 people signed up for the next driver's class. So we are doing that training right now. We're trying to incentivize people to do it, so much as paying for them to kind of take classes and move forward. So we're hopeful that we can kind of get to a place where we actually can move forward. So we've talked about it, but it's and this is across the state of California.
Yeah.
This is one of those critical things that districts are dealing with.
So my question then comes to, is when does this program end? So when do the kids get back to their home site? And then are there buses there to get them home, or are they getting back to their site when the bus is regularly leaving?
Great question. It depends where we're going. So the majority of our students are actually picked up by their parents when they're competing on a Friday afternoon after they're finished. Our parents are picking up the students from the home site, like a C.L. Smith or a Hawthorne, at 4:30, 4:45. Our fellows are there with them. Like Aaron described, there may be a homework club. And so our fellows are always there with them as they transition out toward their parents. I will say that when we drive students home at the end of competition, parents are usually waiting for their student, and then they pick them up from their home school, or the student's parent meets them at the home school and they walk home. I assure you that no student has ever been left without the ability to make it all the way home.
are some students not able to participate because they can't get home?
It's a great question. I would say that it's a problem that we're trying to solve. Were there specific examples? I would say there were a few, to be perfectly frank, where students were maybe not able to participate because of practice, and then they were not able to maybe take a late bus because there was no access to that. But I assure you that as hard as that is, it was in the single digits. You're welcome.
I do think that as we proceed, especially with our ELO funds, our expanded learning opportunity grant funds, and I'll be bringing kind of a presentation to the board to kind of share a plan with that. The goal with that program is to expand the school year by 30 days, so that helping pay for summer school programs and doing that. But it's also, when we do that for next year, we are going to have to set up a program where all of our free and reduced lunch, English learner, foster homeless youth students get at least 9 hours of day. So I'm envisioning that we're going to use those funds for summer school, and then we'll also be providing them with childcare, both before and after school. So I can see us kind of tying in where the kids can, after school, go to the athletic program and then go to, rec after that, right? So they can be there until 6 o'clock with parents. So that's something positive, I think, in the future that we'll kind of build in using those. But I'll be bringing more about that to the board very soon. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Sort of continuing on in the same vein of wanting to be sure that everyone who wants to be included is included. I'm reminded of a friend who was a PE aide in our district, who said that some children couldn't participate in certain PE activities because they didn't have appropriate shoes, and that the shoes they were wearing were their shoes. That was their pair of shoes. So I'm really grateful for the contributions that we're receiving from the foundation in terms of uniforms and what have you. But I'm wondering, just for basics like shoes so a child can participate, is that something that the district would provide out of principal's discretionary funds perhaps? Or is there a way to ensure that every child who wants to participate is able, has the the appropriate clothing to do so?
The short answer again would be yes. We've worked with our elementary sites that are, if there are any students who would need access to anything in that regard, the foundation is available and is open to provide that support. And I can speak firmly that there are at least 3 or 4 students that were involved in our athletic program that had shoes provided for them.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I would hope that all of our sites are reaching out to our families resource centers. Because again, whether it's elementary athletics after school, or these kids need shoes during the day as they enter classes, right? So, there should be lots of ways for us to assist any students that have clothing issues, shoes issues, food issues, even housing issues, other things, right? So I know our principals know that, especially our counselors, elementary counselors. So we're hopefully making those connections.
And I was going to say that at least I know on the coast that the Estero Bay Community Foundation I believe they would have funds available for exactly the kind of thing that Mrs. Rogers talking about. And so that's where probably the school advocates would be able to steer the parents to that, or be able to get those kinds of funds for some of those students.
And it was something that's not necessarily framed out on a slide also is the fact that working with food services and the opportunity for students to be able to receive that, to go snack, dinner, grab a bag. And when you're at CL Smith and you have, 400 student athletes participating, and they're able to grab on their way out, provided by food services, it's phenomenal to see in our district.
So Erin is the Uber team mom, I would guess you'd say.
Yes, she is, but we all know that already. Okay.
That's right, we already know.
Obviously we have girls volleyball as well as flag football. We had 18 teams participate. And again, we had competition with regard to CL Smith. We had it at Sinsheimer. We had it at Bishop's Peak, at Pacheco Elementary School on a Friday afternoon, we had all 18 teams participate, and we captured a little bit of that on video. And then obviously we had it at San Luis Obispo High School cross country. It's amazing. We had 8 teams, 100 athletes with regard to cross country, and we held 2 races for all the students to participate at CL Smith. And it was so interesting to watch the very first time. For many of these kids, it was the first time they've ever competed in a race, ever. Think about that for a moment. A 5th or 6th grader's first ever time to do that. We had standing room only with regard to parents there to watch and to cheer on. And we had the finish shoot and cross country, and we tracked their times, and then we posted their times, and then they couldn't wait till Monday so that we could give them their times. And then we waited 2 weeks, and then they wanted to do it again because they wanted to see if they bettered their time. And they were quick to track that. And then the culmination was on the 29th of October, where we partnered with our high schools and our middle schools, where they were able to run at Laguna Lake for the Laguna Lake Golf Course, which is the county cross country championship. So now imagine you're a 5th and 6th grade student and you're showing up and you've just seen varsity kids run. You've watched junior varsity kids run. You've watched middle school kids run. And now you're competing for the very first time in a race where the big kids run. And that was a phenomenal opportunity at 11 a.m. on that Saturday morning for them to come out. And again, students participated there.
Sorry, Chris. I know everybody else got this, but it dawns on me. I mean, you're talking about tracking their time. And so now we're talking about math and bettering their time. It's just, I mean, we look at this in art and now we're looking at it. Just thank you guys. I mean, it's just great.
Well, it takes a team. Let me tell you, there's a lot of help. No problem. So I wanted to bring this to your attention. This is our participation data. We have 400 student athletes. I wanted to break it down. I think Mr. Buckman, you made that reference earlier. Who are these students that are 5th and 6th grade? And what jumps off the page when you look at this is the number of students who are SED who are participating in our after school elementary athletics program, especially when you consider the percentage of students who make up SED out of 5th and 6th grade exit of LOMS. We're not counting Los Osos Middle School 6th graders. So we tracked how many kids do we have in 5th and 6th grade who could participate, what percentage of them would be SED and non-SED, and then what did it really look like for our 400. And we're really excited because our target-rich audience was providing an opportunity for students that might not have that access. And we're super, super proud of this. We're also super proud of the fact that we had more females involved than males, but we want to get males involved too. But think about that from a 5th and 6th grade perspective, the number of females that were able to access the sports. Remember, cross country was open to boys and girls. Flag football was co-ed, and we hosted girls volleyball. And then we're obviously going to host boys volleyball later. But when we pulled this data, we were so excited to see the number of SED kids had the opportunity to participate.
I'm going to give you some feedback about the cross country. I was talking to a parent, and this parent was excited that Tyler Hoyt was going to be athletic director at Morro Bay High School because Tyler was a cross country runner. And then I pointed out to this parent that we were doing this in our elementary school. And so I think we're going to expect to see growth in our cross country teams and probably our other teams too. I mean, I frankly am just waiting to see when we're going to have girls flag football, because I know it's coming. We know that it's been a CIF approved sport, and I think that's really exciting too. So I think we're on the cutting edge of this, and it's just super exciting.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do we have, because I know, sometimes in our elementary schools that some of our, take for example, soccer, that we don't know, we see a lot of our, Latino boys participate in that, but not necessarily our Latino girls. Are we seeing, and sometimes that takes an over above, outreach to those because what do you think about the trend of that? And maybe you're seeing something different.
Actually, we saw a lot of Latino girls involved. Offhand at Pacheco Elementary and girls volleyball, they had 30 student athletes. They had 3 teams. At CL Smith, I think, Aaron, you had 3 teams in girls volleyball. We were seeing great participation, but also we saw great participation of parents coming for competition on a Friday afternoon and making their way there. So that was really, really something that we were very proud of. And as we build into soccer, we're going to predict that we're going to see a lot of students involved there, and then also into basketball. So we're making them able to participate in sports that are accessible. And again, we're providing all of the equipment, like all of the equipment. The last 2.5 weeks, I just want to give a shout out to Aaron. Aaron's been working with our Cal Poly fellows at Teach Elementary on a Thursday afternoon with one of his PE teachers, teaching our fellows how to coach basketball, how to understand basketball. Now, remember, there's 18 to 20 Cal Poly students out there. And I will say, with the odd exception, they're not super athletic. Okay. And they're wonderful. And they come from a variety of different places and backgrounds. There's a lot of kids of color in the fellowship program. So from a role model perspective, it's pretty powerful when Latino students at Pacheco are seeing their coaches who just look like them, who are in university studying biology, who are 21, who are bilingual. And they're like, wow, I never thought that I could do that. And that's that connection piece. So it's pretty powerful in that regard. I wanted Aaron to maybe talk a little bit about the program impact, especially from a school side, if possible.
So yeah, I kind of hit on a few of these already. Definitely the student relationship building with the coaches and the adults on campus, but also making new friendships with their peers. You saw the picture of 3 of my runners on there right there before. One was 5th grade, 2 were 6th grade. None of them hung out before. Now they're after school together all the time because they were on the same team. So those kind of powerful impacts. The school culture, watching the football end and kids begging for more. And so we do our lunchtime football leagues, and they're all out there with their mouth guards and their gloves and their cleats at lunch, and they're just doing it on their own now because they just want to keep playing. It just kind of builds that culture on your campus. The families on campus was fantastic, especially the cross country races. The meet at Smith. I didn't get to go to the one on Saturday at the Laguna Lake Golf Course, but the 2 that we held at Smith, just having families from all different school sites on the coast in town, their music playing, award wins, top 5 runners announced for the boys and the girls runners, and just the kids' excitement and the family's excitement. Got a lot of positive feedback from parents there. And then just kind of coming together as a larger whole, like as a district, having the opportunity for these kids to have this taste of what is going to be coming in junior high and high school is phenomenal. So hopefully it continues them to stay engaged at the middle school level and continue on into the high school level. So having that unity across, but also meeting kids from other schools when they're competing, it's just bringing them all together as they enter into Laguna and at Loam. So it's a great impact for us. Really, really powerful, and it's only going to get bigger and better.
And then finally, when we talk about the celebrations, we talk about 43%. 43% of our 5th and 6th grade students participated. Let that sit for a moment. And something, again, that we started building January 10 months ago. When we look at our SED students participating and enjoying every moment of it. And when we talk about the impact on campuses and the principals reporting out that the building of culture and the connectivity to school, and an area that we've talked about a lot with our fellows and our coaches and with our students and our student athletes with regard to bullying, there's an opportunity for students to feel part of something and to learn good citizenship and to be kind to each other, even whilst they compete. And one of my last memories of I watched the student at CL Smith, phenomenal flag football kid. And every time that one of his teammates would grab a flag of the other team, this young man on Aaron's campus would walk over ever so politely, pick the flag up and hand it to the kid that had just lost the flag on the opposing team and just give it right back to him. I was like, wow, just that awareness and that sense of togetherness made it all the worthwhile. So this is what we've been able to do through the Elementary for Athletics Achievement Program from the fall, and we're excited to start again on Tuesday, the 29th of November after Thanksgiving break. And we're excited to see what we can do. Thank you. I'll take questions.
Mark? Did you have, no?
Yeah, I have a thought. That's not necessarily a question. Kind of my new thing now, I guess. So we had the safe sports program, and maybe we can apply it across. I remember, and I don't know if they still do it. Remember academic decathlon?
Yeah.
So you're already on the same page.
No, I know exactly. My
Yeah.
old district, we had academic decathlon. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but I'm wondering, so we've got 48% of the kids, but maybe there's a possibility that we now have some academic competition as well.
Yeah, the future is very bright for that as well. I agree.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you guys just keep breaking ground. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Thanks.
Ms. Roger.
Well, I just had my hand in the air, but that's okay. I guess I'm raising my hand. This has been such a feel-good presentation. I mean, everything about this is positive. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate the time and effort that that everyone has put into making this a reality for kids. And I look at Mr. Black and I think, wow, what an investment of time on your part to make this happen. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Evelyn?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on Mrs. Rogers, that the investment that our and commitment and dedication to our students is remarkable. I don't even want to say it's remarkable because it's what we do. It's what staff does. And so, but the appreciation from, I think, all of us up here, because of really the impact it has on kids. I guess my last hope and thought is that, as you guys are working through the bugs and, for this year and thinking about next year, is that we somehow continue to develop that targeting of these mentors, these amazing Cal Poly Questa Core individuals, and really try to, if we can, target that kind of mentorship that they have for our neediest, schools. Not that they're not there at all schools, but, to really kind of build that capacity in. But again, I appreciate this time and effort and kind of the vision moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to point out, I think you've done it in some respects, but the work that the principals are setting it, it's kind of something else on their plate, but I really give them a great deal of appreciation for their willingness to make the time, find the time, make this happen, realize the importance, and hopefully as it's bearing fruit for them to see the enthusiasm that Erin, that you were describing about the students wanting to do this at lunchtime, and I would hope that it's having a positive effect on things like attendance, on classroom interaction, on classroom behaviors, on all those things that will continue throughout their entire career with us. And as well as even in the younger grades, the students who aren't able to participate, to look at the older kids and see that they have something to strive for, and that, that building block that, you keep doing well in second, third, and fourth grade, you'll have this to look forward to. These are the things that this is what we build upon, and that we'll see it throughout all grade levels throughout their careers. So thank you.
Great.
I don't believe I think we've have a little video, it looks like.
Yeah.
And hold on, just Mandy, is there anybody from the public that wants to talk to us? Maybe not. Why don't we pick that up after the video?
This was at Pacheco for girls volleyball. There's a lot of people out there. Just want to point out all of the equipment we purchased brand new for all the schools as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Dawson, is there anybody from the public? And I think we should note that that video was produced by students from San Luis Obispo High School. So thank you. Okay, 10.03, discussion and approval of organization meeting to be scheduled on December 13th. Dr. Prater.
Yes. As a requirement from the SLO County registrar or county clerk, all school districts who have their organizational meetings scheduled following I think it's the second Friday of the month of December, have to put this on the previous board meeting's agenda. So I'm looking for your approval of the organizational meeting be scheduled on December 13th. And this is a requirement of Ed Code.
Okay. Ms. Dawson, is there anybody from the public that would like to address us on this? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Would someone like to make a motion? Motion by Mrs. Roger. Second by Ms. Dobler-Drew. Any further discussion? Okay, Marilyn.
Yes.
Eve. Evelyn. Ellen.
Yep.
Mark. And I'm a yes, motion carries 6-0 with one absence. Next is proposed revision to proposed revisions to board policy 3553, free and reduced price meals, first reading. Ms. Frost.
Exactly. Thank you. 3553. Just a couple of small changes on this one. It acknowledges that good nutrition affects many aspects of a student's education, including well-being. And that was added in this version. And it talks about how data can be collected and used on free and reduced, and it specifically adds LCAP uses. My recommendation is that this comes back for a second reading.
Okay, is everybody good with that? Okay, we'll bring that back for a second reading. Anybody from the public? Okay, next one is 10.05, proposed revisions to board policy 4030, non-discrimination in employment, first reading.
Thank you. Again, 4030. This board policy prohibits harassment by coworkers, supervisors, managers, et cetera, and requires employees to report if they're aware of harassment. There is a small addition in this board policy, and it adds a single new legal reference on the last page.
Okay. Anybody from the public? Is everybody good with us bringing this back? What would you like us to?
I'd be happy if the board was interested in approving this evening. It
Sure.
is a very simple change in the legal references.
Okay. Would everybody be good if we did that? Okay, then we need Lexi will go to the public. Anybody from the public? Hold on just a second. I need to write this down. This is 10.0. Okay, who'd like to make a motion? Mrs. Frame. Second by Mrs. Sheffer. Any further discussion? Okay, Mrs. Frame, Mrs. Sheffer, Mr. Buckman, Ms. Dobler-Drew, Mrs. Roger, and I'm a yes. Motion carries 6-0. Onto the action consent agenda. Please let me know if you'd like something pulled. 11.01 annual renewal of services for Super Co-op, a California USDA Foods Cooperative. 11.02 approval of certificated and classified personnel items. 11.03 approval of furniture and equipment request. 11.04 disposal of surplus. No polls. Would someone like to make a motion to approve 11.01 to 11.04?
Items 11.01 through 11.04.
Okay, we have a motion by Marilyn, a second by Mark. Any further discussion? Okay, Marilyn,
Yes.
Mark, Eve, Evelyn, Ellen, and I'm a yes. Motion carries 6-0 with one absence. Is there any advanced agenda? Okay, then let's move on to board reports. Who's got a report for us? Mark, you want to start?
Since the last meeting, I've had extracurricular activities besides walking lots of neighborhoods. I was able to attend a meeting on the homeless showers for the city of San Luis Obispo. It's quite enlightening. And they've, in going through the COVID, they were able, just had to revise the whole thing so that it was the sanitation and the cleaning and everything. So each person going in gets so many minutes. They get a new set of clothing on the way out. It's really quite extensive and a good program. And then this other thing that I was able to squeeze in was attending the Laguna Middle School PTA, which I guess the membership is way up. And it's just really good to see, really good to hear. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I guess it's up to me. Just so on Thursday the 3rd, we did the Bishop's Peak Boardwalk. And I want to just thank Diana Jones and the staff that welcomed us. On Friday, a bunch of us went to the San Luis Obispo Economic Conference, and I think the big takeaway for most of us was the need for affordable housing. I then was able to come over to San Luis Obispo High School and hear part of Michael McDowell's clarity presentation for our secondary teachers, and it was pretty amazing. I was really impressed, and I spoke with a teacher afterwards, actually a couple of teachers afterwards, and they were very excited about this and what they were learning. And then on Saturday the 5th, I went to the Morro Bay High School Cooking Club, which is Tirza Aban's something she sponsors. There were about 20 students who were involved in it. They made an Asian meal of stir fry, wonton, pumpkin biscuits, and almond cookies, and it was absolutely delicious. So I want to thank all of them. Just for the public, in about a week, many of us will be attending the California School Boards Association conference. And I just wanted to point out that again, our district is doing a couple of presentations. One of our presentations will be on developing board calendars, which sounds boring as heck, but super important. And the other one is actually, we've been invited to participate in a panel discussion. Jeremy Kolish, our IT director, will be sitting on a panel with the superintendent of LA Unified discussing cybersecurity. And that was a very, that was I think a feather in our cap that we were able, that they thought about us and asked us to come and speak about that. So that's something I think to look forward to. What? Because we were hacked. That's right. And the things that we're doing and in the steps that we're taking to assure that our data is secure, and hopefully learnings for other school districts as well. On that note, I guess we will see everybody on December 13th. Thank you very much.